And like that, we are live. Welcome to the Condor DM Show. What's up? Tonight we're covering a game called Tribe 8. The topic, it's based on sort of conspiracy theory, apocalyptic, in southern Quebec, Canada. So, theme is conspiracy theory. Location of the game, the setting, is in Quebec, Canada. So it's a Canadian take on the theme, on the whole thing. So for anyone who's in the hobby, the tabletop role-playing game hobby, that's Canadian, you might want to hear about Tribe 8, especially if you're someone who tries different types of tabletop role-playing games. You don't just play D&D. Well, Tribe 8 is an interesting game. Very interesting. There's a lot of meat on that bone. So you've probably noticed that I posted up some how-to videos based on Savage Worlds, the tabletop role-playing game, Babylon 5, the tabletop role-playing game, and Hollow Earth Expedition. Now, I've done these. These are member-only streams, edited down, because I want to give people a preview of what I'm doing on the members only. Now, don't get it wrong. I'm not going to keep putting out that content, but I want people to get a sample of what they're getting when they sign up as a member to the channel. So it's one thing to say, here I am covering a game, but here are some videos, how-to videos, that are edited down streams of the members-only streams I've done. 3 of them. Now, I want people to be able to check those out so they know. So I'm not going to keep putting those how-to videos up. I put 3 of them up recently, in the last night and today. And it's edited streams that were for members only. And I don't want to keep putting out that material, but it is a preview. I want people to know what they're getting when they sign up as members to the channel. I do member-only streams, right? And so those are edited down 3 streams I've done. Very edited, to be honest. Mainly focused on the game, coverage, not the casual talk, outside of the coverage of the game. But they're how-to. It's background information on how the game was, what inspired the creation. And then I go into game master advice, character creation advice, and I cover the setting for the game. And it's not really much different than what I do for the normal streams, to be real. There's a little less stuff. I don't go over certain mechanics, but it's still games that I personally don't plan to do a lot of coverage on until far into the future, because right now I'm covering games from 1974 to 1999. And the members only are games that are beyond 1999. So it's like getting a preview where when I do a stream on that later, I have a lot more to say. So I don't want to put it all in one shot. But, it's one thing to say what games I'm covering. I figured I'd let people hear what they're getting when they sign up as members. So those 3 videos that came out recently, it's just to give you a sample of what you're getting in the members only streams. So I won't be doing that with future member only stream content. So you won't see more how-to videos coming out like that. It's going to be those 3, and those are samples so people can check it out and go, oh, so that's what you get when you sign up as a member to Steven's channel. Yep, that's exactly. I go 110%. I don't care if I have 1,000 people watching me or 1 person. I go 110%, because to me it's all about making sure I'm doing good. And I never give myself an excuse to be lazy or half-hearted with my effort. It's just to make sure that it doesn't matter what size the audience is. It matters how the quality of my delivery, my energy, my enthusiasm. So I bring it if it's one person or 1,000 people or 10,000 people, doesn't matter. It's just to keep my performance at a certain par, right? And to improve over time. And I hope I'm improving, over time on these streams. I hope that's the aim, right? To keep getting better at this as we go forward together. So today is Tribe 8, location Southern Quebec. So it's Canadian location. I figured that'd be interesting for a lot of Canadians out here, especially guys that don't play, just play Dungeons and Dragons. And it's conspiracy theory focused, sort of like apocalyptic type of theme gimmick, right? Very interesting. Now, yesterday's game, I look back at the stream, and I know it's good for what the game is. I'm very happy with that outcome. If you were to go play Unknown Armies, what you would realize is it's intently generic, a certain side of it. And I cover the underworld stuff and all the special gimmicks to it, but it's purposely generic where it wants you to be living a normal life as a character. Like there's a very on purpose, plain Jane side of the game. And that's to make the bit of supernatural stuff really, really stick out strongly. But that means when you're making a character or you're focusing on a lot of different parts of the game, you're going to focus on very basic, normal stuff. And that's on purpose. That's intent with intent. So, and it goes over a lot of things that a lot of older games want you to do anyway. A lot of older games aren't extremely focused on fantasy or hero-based characters. So they'll say, make a normal person. So when I'm giving out advice for, say, character creation for a lot of old school games, I'll have to repeat the idea, almost repeat. Try not to be too repetitive, but it's hard not to. When every game, just like a lot of games are saying, don't make the hero, make a normal person. Where their approach to character creation is very similar when it comes to the mindset of the way they want players to look at making the character. So yesterday, it's hard to even give an identity to some of the coverage. Like to say this is Unknown Armies because it's meant to be a little generic on purpose. So part of me is like saying, well, I hope my regulars don't find this to be too repetitive or too boring. But if somebody were to go play Unknown Armies and they go back to that stream, they'll right away understand what the stream is the way it is, and they'll see the value in the stream. I put a lot of things that aren't in the text for Unknown Armies, like ideas, seeds, to help you think, right? To really get you close to what the designers want, what the game is looking for. A lot of ideas. But it's very basic stuff, but it's just to help you think. It's like a brainstorm session on helping you make a character or understanding how to run the game. So Unknown Armies, plain Jane generic. Now today, it's a bit different, and I'm happy about that. Tribe 8 has a very, very unique look on the people, on the setting, on the whole backstory to the game. So it doesn't mean you won't hear me say make normal people or something in that vein, but it is not as generic as Unknown Armies. I'm not taking a shot at Unknown Armies. I like the game myself. So I enjoy the game, and I actually think it's necessary, the very generic, plain side of Unknown Armies. I totally get it. It's actually, I think it's a benefit to what the game is looking for. It wants the supernatural to stand out strong, and it wants it to feel a little bit surreal and like, whew, because you're living a normal life, and here it comes. And the way I compare it was this. I'm not a giant fan of zombie shows or movies or whatnot. No, I like some of it. Don't get it wrong. I like a little bit of it. But, and I didn't mind some of the old movies. They were fun, popcorn theater type movies like Dawn of the Dead. But they remade Dawn of the Dead in 2005. And I found myself, I was drilled in on that movie. I watched it and I enjoyed it a lot. But why did I enjoy it? It's something that I feel like is sort of the approach of Unknown Armies. Dawn of the Dead 2005 was not like popcorn theater movie Dawn of the Dead back in the old school. Dawn of the Dead 2005 was an extreme take on normal everyday life. And they introduce you to things, even the way they introduce the mall is not like popcorn theater mall from the original. When you go to watch this at the start, you really feel like you're just looking at daily life. Like the whole movie starts off plain Jane, generic, what you relate with, and what you relate with, very important. That's what they want from Unknown Armies. You watch it, and it feels like really normal. Really normal. So when the zombies finally come into Dawn of the Dead, I love how they shock the scene. Because it's not like popcorn comic book feel. It's like real. It's one thing to see all these sort of, comic book zombie movies. But imagine you're looking at like real life. Like this is a place where you would be and reading the comic. But instead, here they are in real life. And they're not typical. They're not like from the comic book. These zombies are rushing at you, running. And the shock of it was so, it just worked. It worked so well that I think it inspired things like The Walking Dead. At least the first, like I never read the comic books, but the first couple like TV seasons, I look at Walking Dead like an extension of Dawn of the Dead 2005. Like it really feels more like that because it gives you the idea of like everyday life instead of trying to make it like popcorn theater comic book. And then they give you the zombies, which is the shock value versus relatable normalcy. Man, it works. And Unknown Armies is very clever with this. That's a game I covered yesterday. Unknown Armies sort of takes it. It gives you purposely, it's to numb you out. It gives you a very plain Jane character creation, plain Jane character, plain Jane world. Very generic, very relatable though, because it's just realistic. And then, out of nowhere, here's all this supernatural stuff that is meant to sort of shock the system. And if you do it right, it really does work. And the supernatural and stuff going on in the game Unknown Armies sticks out really well. It does a great job. It just, if you're looking at the game from the outside looking in and you assume things, you might not think that. It's only when you finally play the game do you realize how valuable the generic plain Jane side of it is. You go, oh, that's why that works. Yeah. Now, Tribate isn't that. Don't give me. It's not the same thing. Tribate has a very interesting take on the apocalypse type of gimmick. It has a very, very extremely interesting take. And I like it because it stands out. It's not this generic thing. But that's for giving you a stream. It's just I know a lot of guys out there, my regulars, have heard me say quite a few things about old school games, but the reason these ideas are used is because with a lot of old games, they work. Like in a lot of old games, the idea of making a heroic character is unnecessary. Now, why would you need to keep drilling on that? It's because most people in the hobby back in the day came in through Dungeons and Dragons. It's just true. Expectations or things would always be related to that game. People are always wondering how a game compares to that game. It is true. That was quite often. That was common amongst the majority of people coming into the hobby, right? People would go, well, do you play a hero? How do you level up? Because they're comparing every game they're running into to their experience with Dungeons and Dragons. And so when they're looking at D&D and then looking at the next game, you got to tell them the difference. And there is a difference. You're not going for the hero. Some games you're not going for levels. The way you improve is different, and there's a different purpose and intent behind the game. So the idea of playing a hero in this game in the same way, it's not. It doesn't mean you can't be heroic. It doesn't mean you can't be a good person and save somebody. All of that is plausible within the game. But the idea of making a character aimed at that is something that's not suitable for the game itself. It wants you to make a normal character. And then if you can be a hero, of course, in some games, you can be heroic. It's not, the game is not saying you can't be that or that's not possible. It's just they're saying when you build the character, you're building a normal character, and then you can do many things in the game based on that, right? Sorry. I don't know if you hear any background noise. I hope not. That's very loud. Give me a second. Okay. All right. So there. Solved one problem. But yeah, that's why Unknown Armies, the coverage of it was, I hope people enjoyed it because I actually enjoyed the game and I don't want to undersell it. But it is hard to sell. I had to talk a lot about my opinions outside of the way I cover it because I want to make sure the coverage is accurate. So anybody ever comes to the game, there's no doubt as they start reading it and then come to the stream, they'll be like, oh, wow, that's on point. That's a lot of good ideas. That's not in the book. There's a lot of seeded thoughts, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of helping. I guarantee anybody who wants to run the game, listens to how to run it, my advice on it, they'll thank me for that later. Trust me, they will. Anybody who wants to make a character, because I just have so much experience with it. When you listen to that part, you'll thank me later after you have real experience with it. You'll be like, man, that was spot on. And there's just so many little things I mentioned that are just not in the text to help you think. Common sense, but it's common sense that you might not even realize or think about or even know that you need to think about early on. But I'll get you there right away. So there you go. That's why that was a sort of generic stream where it was sort of meant to be that way. Right. But a lot of games do have this non-heroic gimmick with the characters. So it's hard. I tell regulars that sometimes, like, sorry, guys, if you hear me repeat some aspects or details that are similar from game to game. Because a lot of games had a similar take, right? And what they're looking for and what they're trying to get. And then there's some games that have very unique takes, but I actually would tell people, don't misunderstand. Just because there's a lot of games out there with a similar take doesn't mean they're not unique against each other. Like, this game might just want you to be a normal person. But trust me, it's different than the other game that wants you to be a normal person too. Like, it's the differences you will find, the separation you will find, the difference in experience you will encounter, and you'll understand why both value this aspect, but it doesn't make either the same game. It's very important to know. Very important to know. Stuff like that's very important to know. So I figured I'd drop a little bit of wisdom on that just to let you guys know that that's it. Now, there's not too many generic games, and there's some interesting games coming up that I'll cover. Right? Teenagers going to space, Cadillacs and dinosaurs. Oh my. But I just want to make sure that to my regulars, no matter how often you might hear me point something out about some of the games that you're going to hear going on in the future, when you are ready to play the game or run it, or somebody else is, you'll understand why the stream has been done that way. I do aim to entertain you. I do want to make it a performance and entertain you, but at the same time, it has to be valuable, right? It has to be valuable to the activity and to the game. I don't want to just hype it up. I want to give some very valuable pieces in there. So in the future, it could be like 10 years from now, if somebody ever picks up one of these games and looks back at my coverage of it 10 years from now, they'll be like, man, that's exactly what I needed to know. That's what I needed to know to run that game or to understand it. Or what about game designers now? How do we influence game designers if everything is left in the past and forgotten? Not mentioned, there's, other than the old books, which nobody even knows to look for, there's no access to it, no source, no thoughts. And some of these ideas are not in the new material. They're not in the new discussions happening. So there's some ideas that are good that are not even used now. Like they're good and they're still not used now in game design, where I'm like, if some of these guys knew about these ideas, they'd be applied. There's no way they'd leave all this behind. What happens is over time, things get forgotten. Things get put into a shelf or into a cabinet. And there's some gems that are just forgotten, not because they're no good, but for various other reasons. It wasn't because they were just dismissed because they suck. It was like this game came out, did it for a while, and then for whatever reason, these other couple designers went in different directions. This old game is now back here. It just maybe it wasn't promoted that well or whatnot. And sometimes good ideas don't always come in the best packages. So there's some great ideas out there that the package just didn't sell. But and the idea was never applied to something else. So it doesn't mean the idea is no good, but it's forgotten. But if that idea was latched onto another concept or another package, whew, man, that's what we needed. And so game designers, if they want to be able to get this stuff again or hear about it or have the ideas in their heads, a guy like me has to come along and do this coverage. And not everyone is doing coverage on all of these different games and sharing out this information. So I hype the game. I help people that want to play it or run it. And I look at game designers and go, here are ideas that I'm going to make sure are not just gems put in a cabinet, forgotten about, and dismissed. Stuff that would still work now in 2026 is hidden in the material. And I want to make sure people know about it. Because I actually sat down and played and ran these games. So I ran into the gems, and I know they do not exist in some of the newer content out today. And a lot of our newer people coming into the hobby don't even know about these games. They don't know about these ideas, and they don't know really not much at all. And why are people sticking more to D&D than ever before, or sticking to Pathfinder, or sticking to whatever? It's because they don't know about elements. Like people, the new school, I did that recent video about flow with the game. Flow being very important. And it's not that it's people, a new school guy might come to me and he'll get mad at me. Like, well, it's just now we do 2 or 3 hour sessions. You just going to have to adjust to the new way. I'm like, dude, I have nothing against how you game. You misunderstand. I'm not at war with you, right? But what I think is the reason you're only doing 3 hour sessions is not because you oppose what you like. You think you're opposing something you're not opposing. Like you don't understand what got us to the 8 hours. Do you think your tedious 3 hours was the same as our 8 hours? No, we weren't having the tedious experience. So what I want to teach you is how did we have the experience with the game? So maybe even in 2026, if you tried this, you'd be like, oh, wait, okay, we do want to do 8 hour sessions. Yeah, you probably do. But there's elements of gameplay, for example, in the new D&D that take away from getting into a flow, right? It just, because it's something I think the companies just didn't realize. There's gimmicks they put in that they think is good for gameplay, but what it's done is degrade gameplay down to a tedious experience. And when you play in a tedious way, of course, you're tired after 3 hours or 2 hours, depending on how you come at the game. So I don't try to fight new school people in the way they approach the game. I try to go, here, let me remind you about something lost in time. The flow is based on former gameplay, and we don't have these elements. So when you get rid of these elements in your game, suddenly you get an 8 hour session without the tediousness. Sandboxing is another thing. Sandboxing is quite common, right, in the old school, but the methods to sandbox, most of them are gone, right? And most of them started vanishing with TSR D&D as they try to unteach people, basically, and I'm serious. TSR became the enemy of sandbox gaming and a sandbox approach to making your own setting. It became the enemy. It started trying to manipulate people, and I would even use the term brainwash, almost brainwash, like trick people into thinking sandboxing was something else. So you'd stop trying to make your own adventures or your own settings, So you'd have to depend on them, pay them so the company could stay going forward. And I see so many today doing it. Pathfinder, second edition, Black Marches. Their loop play, when you examine it, is a railroad. All right, it's not a sandbox, but they'll call it a sandbox. I'm like, no, that's controlled play. That's a railroad. They're like, but no, it's not. I'm like, yes, it is. You're playing tricks. It's just not true. It is a railroad. Loop play, limited access to things. That's a railroad. That's a forced play. And we, back in the day, we understood something really basic. Sandbox is complete freedom. It's all it is. It's complete freedom. Now there's limits. You can't just go running off with your character into the woods without facing consequences of running into something. Don't get me wrong, right? But there is no invisible walls. Sandbox is whatever you can do, you can do. Whatever you want to try to do, you could try to do anything. Right? Railroad is force. It is to take away from the freedom. It doesn't matter if it's on an adventure path or on a loop. Railroad is simplistic. It's a simplistic explanation of what's happening. It's force. It's forcing the character onto limitations. That's all it is. And you can do a soft railroad. So you can a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, but you're still going on a loop or a path. Or you can do a hard railroad. You can't turn anywhere. You're just on that straight, narrow path right there. So I want to teach people about these things, sandboxing. That's why I find all my content from the old gaming very valuable, because I don't think we're at war with the new school. I don't care if you play 2-hour sessions. Like I don't care what you do at your table. I'm not trying to win a war with you. I never have. I care about what I do, but at the same time, what I see is people not knowing things, or what they assume is like their tedious 3 hours is, again, what we did for 8 hours. No, it's not. No, it's not. Our 8 hours was a flow experience, and we could do 8, 10, 12, 20 hours, right? Because once you knew to get into the flow, you enjoyed it. The flow is enjoyment. The flow is not tedious, right? There's just so many little aspects of WotC changes the game, but what it doesn't understand is it doesn't understand what it's changing. It's not just changing the game, it's changing how you experience the game, but without the game designers from WotC knowing that's what they're doing. Like, they don't recognize they're doing that. So, even to them, it's all an experiment. So, and they don't have much time. Like, they change it, they put it on the market, and then the science lab is really the experience with the product that's already out. It's not really much of what they did before it came out. So there was no way WotC and all the people at WotC knew they were going to kill long-term sessions, like or like 8-hour sessions. Was it their intent to do so? No. But once their product has caused this and you can't backtrack, what would WotC do? Would they tell you, hey, we're not against 8 hours? No, they were promoted. And what happens to guys that used to look at Mike Merles? Look at the things he's saying now. He'll say, search around the room without a dice roll. My question is, go look at his statements when he worked for WotC. He says nothing like that, because he's working for the company. Then he leaves the company and he says these things, but the problem is, I would tell Mike Merles is, your little thoughts put out there mean nothing, because the game you produce doesn't support that mindset. You have developed a mindset in people and given them a game to bypass these things. So it doesn't matter that you finally come around to principles. And I hate to say it, but Mike Merles is out there listening to guys like me. That's true. He listens to the old school video YouTubers. This is true. He fucking interacts with them. Straight up, he listens to our content. So it's nice that he hears people like me speaking and reminding him what's valuable about the hobby, but here's a guy who made a game or was part of making a game, was part of producing a game that totally destroys that approach. I'm like, you can't backtrack and do that with 5e. You can't do it with 3e. You can't do it with 4e. You can't do it with 5e. You can't do it with Pathfinder, and you can't do it with Pathfinder 2e. Like he's talking about things that only make their way into the game through old school. And then I have to be honest about old school. Because there's a lot of people out there that talk about old school in a way that just doesn't make sense. Right? I'm like, well, you ran raw with modules? Dude, you don't speak for us. Even your gaming experience is going to be different if you went down that road. So it's so many things. So many things. I mean, AD&D 1E with the tournament style raw and modules harmed a lot of what we normally do. But there's egos, there's people stuck into it, there's people that have made that an identity. It's their identity. And if you say the truth about raw and modules, they're too committed. There are guys that are too committed to raw. Now, I'm right about how bad the raw approach to old school D&D is. I am absolutely right. It's not even debatable. But there are guys out there that will they won't interact with me, because to interact with me is to also acknowledge what I've said. So I get a lot of AD&D 1E guys out there that do raw that won't even say my name or acknowledge that I exist, because to acknowledge me is to acknowledge the points I have made against their positions. And imagine you're that scared. Imagine you're holding on to an idea or an approach to the game that you know I have fucking put a hole through that. I have devastated your approach to the game, and you cannot dismiss whatsoever what I've said. I have called it out and shown it for what it really is. Well, if it demolishes what you stand on, but you want to still stand on it, the easiest way to dismiss what I say is to make sure you don't acknowledge me to begin with. If you don't acknowledge me, you don't have to acknowledge how I have torn what you think about raw to pieces. A lot of basic people out there that can't acknowledge me, because once they hear the truth about raw and module play, and I'm sorry to say, they don't want to hear that, because that really diminishes their part in the hobby. Right? How can the DM be king, like Gary Gygax says, if the book is king? And how is the book not king if we run it raw? Explain that to me. If you run it raw, the book has the authority. See, when you hear about rule lawyers, it can be very confusing from the old school. They'll be like, rule lawyers aren't these people that do this. I'm like, hold on, dude. Hold on. Rule lawyers before AD&D 1E raw and modules, they weren't that bad. They would be people that would inform you, but you could just say, no, going to do it this way anyway. And they'd be like, cool. Second edition, the same thing. A rule lawyer in second edition, whatever you want to call them, they'd be like, hey, DM, this says this in the book. And I'd be like, yeah, but I'm doing it this way. My second edition players would be like Beck Me and OD&D players. They'd be like, okay, cool. Want to know why Beck Me, OD&D, and second edition AD&D players would react in that easy way? Because Dungeon Master is king. But in AD&D 1E raw and module, why would you meet a different rule lawyer? Because it's not like the stereotype or reputation of bad rule lawyers doesn't exist. They exist for a reason. Where do you encounter them? AD&D 1E raw with module. If you do something where the book says something else, yeah, but I'm doing it this way. No, you got to do it by the book. But understand, if you run it raw, how wrong is that player? If raw is your gimmick and the player argues with you, the book is king if you do it by raw. If you don't do raw, the DM is king. And so in second edition AD&D, Beck Me In original D&D, a rule lawyer or somebody reminding you of the rules would simply back off if you said, yeah, fair enough, that's in the book, but I'm doing it this way. AD&D 1E, not so much at all. And that style, that book raw gimmick came back in 3rd edition, 4th edition, and 5th edition in WotC. Because you'll hear the same type of argumentative rule lawyer in a 3rd edition game, in a 4th edition game, and a 5th edition game. Just like you heard when it came to AD&D 1E raw with module. So there's that. So when we get to D&D. Now, don't get it wrong. Some games can be very unforgiving. Some games wrote freedom in properly, or they put things in check. So most games knew trouble they were going to run into. Like, Traveler's very good at making you understand, what authority a game master has compared to players, and it's stuff like this. A lot of it's written better than D&D when it comes to sort of going after something. But understand, almost all games are not as generic as D&D, and there's a reason. D&D is meant to capture, it's meant to be like a rule set and something in the vein of, like, imagine you're trying to make a fudge or a game that can cover a lot of different things, right? So you make it a bit generic. That's old school D&D, bit generic. A lot of other games were very focused, like Call of Cthulhu, that it's built in with a railroad, right? Some freedom, but railroad. So a lot of non-D&D games are very direct and raw to a degree where raw makes sense for what the game is. Pendragon, raw. Now, there are some games that are purposely sandboxy in the vein of something like D&D, but gives you a lot more freedom. Traveler gives you a lot more freedom. But there you go. There you go. You understand, you pick up all this wisdom as you go through the games and try them. So it just depends on what a game is trying to get out of the situation, where you get how much freedom you get, how well explained it is. D&D just didn't explain a lot of things that well. They're very vague. On purpose to a degree, but very vague. And it's all over the place. And some of the writing is contradicting itself. It's like Gary in the Dungeon Master Guide for AD&D 1E. They don't mention very clearly that the AD&D 1E game at home is not raw. It's like OD&D BECME in 2nd edition. DM has authority. You don't do raw because DM is king. And raw is simply made for the shared world tournament module play. And that's to keep that structured, right? That's just to make sure nobody's getting cheated in the tournament play. That's why raw matters in tournament. But in reality, they don't explain this clearly. At home, the 1E game is, no, it's not raw at all. That's why you call the DM king at home. The DM being king, you're not king in tournament play. Now, imagine, because it's so unclear, that you confuse home play for tournament play. And then you get shared worlds that are all made on tournament play. Tournament play is the real secret behind Bro OSR, or in the early 2000s, TTRPGs that I encountered online, especially. I met other groups too. The one-to-one time, the shared world gimmicks. These are things that originally come all the way back from, like, Braunstein right up to tournament play and stuff like this, sort of organized, controlled play. It all comes out with TSR, with tournament play. And you see it reflected in things like TTRPG or the Bro OSR style of gaming. It's just, that's all it is. Now, they don't represent the home game. And in reality, the Bro OSR guys, I've had to call them out, they misrepresented actual tournament play and what TSR and Gary was trying to do. They kept saying this is what they were really trying to do. I had to do a video showing them the facts. I went over exactly what the Bro OSR pitches, and then went over in detail what Gary and TSR was intending, and they don't match. So, sorry, guys, you didn't figure out a secret. You're simply wrong. You could say your gimmick is inspired by this, but beyond the inspiration, it's not that. And why is D&D such a big topic? I mean, it's ruled the roost for so long. I know there's a minority of people out there that don't want to hear about it, but it's like it's impossible to understand most tabletop role-playing games because, or even the hobby, without understanding D&D. The more ignorant you are about D&D, the more ignorant you are about everything else. Because even the games that you might like that are non-D&D games are all made in a way to counter that, in a way to compare themselves to that, and their intent, right? And there's similarities between D&D and other games. They inspire many games. So it's impossible to have an open discussion about the hobby while trying to ignore D&D. It is. You can't have an intelligent discussion. You can't, because you won't even understand what's going on. You won't understand how these things, how many of the things you see later, or even around it, are inspired by it to begin with, are all made comparing itself to that thing. And then you'll confuse the conversation too, because it's a lot easier bringing a lot of other people in and understanding things, because a lot of people are into the D&D world. So if I want them to learn more about non-D&D games, I got to bring them in through this, right? Or if I want them to understand the differences between certain experiences with D&D, we had to go back and explain it, right? You got to go back and you have these detailed conversations. I hope this is like 40 some minutes of just nonstop TTRPG talk. Yappy. Yappy good stuff. Started off, I think the first 20 minutes is just clearing the air on unknown armies, giving you an idea of Tribe 8 coming up tonight. Going into some of the content, I think it's just valuable for me to do reminders on the content I've covered. Now, what about the 3 videos I put up recently? I'm surprised that the how-to videos don't automatically get some more views. Like, I'm not sure how the algorithm works with that part. Like, I know how the algorithm works, but I'm surprised more people are, because it does come down to the people, right? The algorithm I found out over time, like I've learned now, only does so much. A lot of people assume the algorithm is doing a lot more things than it actually does. It's when you do certain content, it's how you match up what you're doing with the algorithm, but everything has its own separate gimmick, right? So yeah, I don't know. I sometimes I see it's not the algorithm, but it's the way people pick things up. And when they pick it up more, the algorithm will react to that. And sometimes I get videos that are picked up weirdly at all times. Oh, recently, because I did a little bit of criticism on the old school, I got called a new school D&D person. Oh, it's one of these new D&D players. That's what was said in the comment about me. I was like, I didn't even know if I want to correct that fast. I'm like, that's nice. I'm new. I've been in the hobby since 1987. I've been an old school D&D person, and I avoided almost all WotC gaming right up until last year, where I ran a bit of 5e for the first time. It was the first time I ever ran anything from WotC. And I had somebody call me a new D&D person. It's almost like being called young when you're old, right? It's like I don't know if I should be insulted or just be like, thinking to myself, well, it's simple-minded thinking. Just because you criticize a certain part of the hobby doesn't mean you are opposed to it. And sometimes, I won't say where I stand in politics, but where I do stand, we are used to criticizing our own type of thing. Not eating our own, but criticizing our own. It's something well practiced. And the part of the hobby that I'm in the old school, I think one thing you should be able to do is criticize your own. And especially if you see bad behavior. And from not just a few individuals, but a lot of people. It doesn't mean everyone. But if there's a portion of the old school that is acting sort of in a group tribal way, and it's not just an individual, but a tribe, an echo chamber, I might put some criticism out there because it's what you call calling out your own. And I don't criticize because I hate people. I criticize because I see bad behavior and I want things to improve. It's like, man, it sucks that that part of the hobby is that way because I think it harms the overall conversation and the fun that we all could be having. But people are trying to grow on YouTube and they're not thinking about fun. They'll do attacks, they'll do all this negative stuff. But hey, it gets you some hype, I guess, on YouTube. But then it creates such a sour environment that the idea that you have fun under those conditions, you have to belittle yourself to have fun. That's just not how that works, dude. And the controlling of the dialogue, or not wanting to acknowledge people because you say certain things, or like I had the other day, large OSR YouTuber, basically who watches some of my content, basically do a video where he just says what I've been saying, doesn't acknowledge me, doesn't do anything. And he says what I've been saying like it's his own ideas and it's his wisdom that he's sharing with you. I'm like, no, dude, most of what you just said, I've never heard you say in your previous content. You took my wisdom that I taught you that you weren't thinking of before, and now you're pretending it's your wisdom and your knowledge. That's all you're doing. It's called faker. It's fake. It's a. I don't mind it, but I used to call it, and I still, to a degree, call it content farming. Because so many people ignore me, a lot of other YouTubers will watch how I do a stream. They'll start copying it. They'll listen to my content and do a video where they just say what I said. I mean, a lot of guys do that. It's content farming. Now it's, hey, you could do it, right? It's completely allowed, I guess. But that's what happens with me. And I don't have to content farm anybody else because most of them are copycats. I mean, look, the guy who copycatted me, if I were to go farm his content, I would come back here and just bitch about WotC. That might give you an idea of who it is. So if I went to his, I would not come back with any real wisdom for you. And actually, if I farmed his content, I come back with anti-wisdom. Imagine the guy I'm talking about, he knows a lot about AD&D 1E, but the ideas that he pushes from AD&D 1E were advanced by 2nd edition. But when he talks about them, he's telling you the old, unadvanced form or ideas or methods that were improved by 2nd edition. So I'll listen to him talk about the 1E take on it, but I'll be like, you tell that guy has not ever checked out 2nd edition because, yeah, the idea is not that bad. But what he says takes 12 months with AD&D 1E, for example, takes 1 month with 2nd edition. We've improved on that thing, but this guy doesn't even know it when he's doing his content. So for me to even the content farm, the guy who contents farmed me the other day, I'd have to either bitch about WotC or become dumber, become less wise about D&D to content farm him. No one's doing content out there that I can content farm and improve what I'm doing here. That's how far ahead I am of a lot of people, just being real. I'm so far ahead of a lot of other content creators that they say pretty much nothing that I need to take from them. They all have to take from me. I don't go to watch them stream and take their ideas. They take mine. Hell, the way I'll sell a product, they'll go to the site I'm going to. They'll put the thing up, the thing for people talking here. They'll talk about sandboxing because I taught them about sandboxing properly. They'll talk about storytelling being anti-D&D because that's the wisdom I have taught them. Without me, they wouldn't even think that way. They wouldn't do those videos and they wouldn't adjust their streams to copy me. But I'm not copying them. And it sounds egotistic, but dude, I got to be real with all you out here that will ever hear this. People have been doing that to me for years. And only as of recent have I really drilled on this point. So, I mean, I could have went on about this forever. I've been seeing them do it forever. Where they just copy what I say. I know they don't have the wisdom. You won't find it in their previous content. They got to wait until they hear it from me and then they can repeat it as if it's their wisdom, which they never had before. Or watching guys copy me doing streams, like, dude, for a guy with 1,000 subs on his channel, I don't know why so many people try to pick up on what I'm doing. But then they'll tell me I'm nobody. I have no impact. I have no impact on the conversation, but I do. I lead the conversation. I am the source. Like, imagine there's about 15 old school tabletop role-playing game YouTubers. On their streams, in their videos, they talk about politics. Nobody complains about that. Nobody even brings it up and says it's an issue. I put out a video the other day. I've said this already, but I put out a video the other day where the title said something about right-wing echo chamber in the old school. Now, the video content has nothing to do with politics at all. Right? After I put that video out for the last week or so, people right away started complaining about, well, at least I'm not like talking about politics, as if to compare what they're doing to me. The thing is, I wasn't talking about politics. They're just assuming it. But I'm like, well, geez, the other 15 YouTubers, old school tabletop role-playing game YouTubers that talk about politics, you never mention politics as an issue. I put out a video where it says right-wing in the title, and suddenly you're talking about politics being talked about. Geez, it's what you call having impact. It's people lie about me. They lie. Oh, we're not paying attention to you. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Content farming me, reacting to everything I say. And you want to know why? No one's reacting to them. They put out a stream. I don't care if it's a panel. It's forgotten about in days. Unless I bring up the topic, what they talked about, nobody cares. They're lucky if they get through a weekend with people even paying attention to what they said. If they do a video, nobody cares. If they do a stream on Wednesday, they can attack people. People will forget who was attacked, why, by the weekend. They have to consistently keep attacking you in the streams for people to remember. So it's what you call having no impact. And they talk about the same things every week because they have no impact. Nobody remembers, nobody cares, nobody's paying attention. See, I say something and people will do content on what I say for weeks. They'll do content in reaction to what I said. That's having impact, kids. That's having real impact in the hobby. Right? Real impact. No, I get a lot of people out here that will get a little flash of some reaction and people will put their noses up in the air like they're better than me. I'm like, yeah, sure. What you say last week, it doesn't matter, dude. Nobody remembers. Nobody cares. They remember what I said. What did your stream say last week? Do you remember? Does anybody? What about the panel that was on not this week, last week? Anybody remember what was said? Who said it? Who was on the panel? Do you remember? What about the video last week of some other old school YouTuber? Do you remember what was said? Who's reacting to it? Who's talking about it? But a video I put out 2 weeks ago, people are still reacting to. That's what you call leading the conversation. I don't farm off people, they farm off me. They react to me. I lead the conversation with a small YouTube channel. How powerful is that, guys? With 10,000 subs, 8,000 subs, 14,000 subs. What did they talk about yesterday? Doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Nobody remembers. That's how quick. Here and gone. Here and gone. Most of the guys doing streams could do the same topics every week on their streams. Nobody would notice. It would take some regulars to finally say, wait, I think you mentioned that last week, but very few things. Most of what they'd say and repeat It would never be called out. And in most cases, they do repeat a lot of what they said from week to week. Why not? Let alone the audience forgot what they said last week. So they themselves forgot what they said. That's how unimportant it was. And it's like, Steven, do you have an ego? Dude, it's not an ego. It's just like, look, if other people do not want to acknowledge the impact I have when I have it, I will. I'll say it out loud. And here's what I'll leave. You can walk away going, yeah, he's egotistic. But it's a seed I'm putting in your head. And what I promised anybody I say this to, go pay attention and you'll finally notice the seed will be planted. It will. I always say things. It takes a little while for people to start seeing it. Like, wait, they are reacting to him. They do remember what he said 2 weeks ago. Shit. And it is true. Nobody knows what that guy said last Wednesday. Who was he going on about? Do you know? Do you remember? Do you care? Shit. A few weeks ago, somebody might have went on about me. Made multiple streams about me. When was it? Do you know what they said? Do you care? Do you remember it? No. It's what you call having no impact. And it's an echo chamber because they get what? The same. I keep getting new people coming to me. New audience members, new blood, new people showing up. What do all the guys that don't like me get? The same chatters, the same likes, the same views. That's it, right? Same. I keep touching new parts of the hobby, affecting new people. That's impact. Everything I do is impact. And at one point, people are going to see my quality, or they're not going to, because I just say things people don't want to hear. But it doesn't mean I don't bring something to the table, man. If you're copying me and you have 8,000, and I'm not copying you because it doesn't help me, and I only have 1,000, it's something. It's like, Steven, you have such a big ego. I'm right. Anybody who follows this will know what I'm talking about. Nobody who follows what I'm exactly doing here and knows about the content around here, nobody disagrees with it. Nobody. The audience that pays attention doesn't disagree. Everything I just said, it's egotistic maybe, but they'll ask them just directly if they'll be honest with you. Does Steven influence the conversation? Every time I talk to people that might not be my biggest fans and they're honest, it's, yeah, you do. What about the guys that don't like me? Do they impact the conversation? No, they don't. It's a shame. And I don't hate some people. We're just being honest here. Right? What was said on your panel the other week? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. Nobody remembers. Not hating on you. What was said on your stream last Wednesday? Nobody cares. Nobody remembers. Doesn't matter. Sucks to be you. Because they want that impact. That's the issue. It's not just good enough that they get a few more views than me or some likes from an echo chamber that automatically gives it to them, even if they don't do good content. They want the impact a guy like me has. That's why they copy. They want to pretend they have the wisdom. They want to have the impact. They want to be remembered. Even the guy who's copied me recently, the OSR guy. I'll have impact with the sandbox talk, the storytelling stuff. I'll still have impact. He copied me, and here's what I guarantee. His video where he copied me, where he's content farming, that will be forgotten in 3-4 days. So even when you copy me out there, old school YouTubers, you can't even have an impact when you repeat my words. That means I'll still keep having the impact after you content farm my shit, say it out loud, because for some reason, when you come to the game here, people, you kill ideas. So if I said, you know what, I'll shut up about all this because the OSR guy went and did the video. I'll shut up about it. I'll let it go. You know what will happen? In a week, people will forget everything I've been pushing. And want to know why? Because he has no impact. I don't care how big his channel is. I don't care how many games he sells of OSR clones. He has this much impact. This much. Nothing. Nothing at all. So if I leave it in his hands to push the ideas, those ideas will die. They'll die. So I have to keep pushing them for them to have an impact. And they will, as long as I keep doing it and not him. That's why it's almost no good to steal my shit. I mean, it might get you a good video for a moment. You make a good video, you'll make an enemy of me at the same time. Oh, you're just repeating my stuff? Yeah, well, I won't stream with you now. I won't stream with you in the future. Like, you just, that's it. You're done. You fucking, I know you took my shit. I ain't talking to you now. No interviews, no talking, no bringing you up. That's it. Waste of life, waste of time. There you go. So, let's get in a more positive realm. What about evil and good characters in the game? Does playing evil characters in a tabletop role-playing game make you evil? Do you have to be an evil human being to play that? And then what happens if there's games out there like Paranoia? How do you run that? If the idea of playing out an evil part, regardless game master or player, if it makes you evil, what about games like Paranoia? How do you run it if you believe that's, if you argue to me, if you have the mind to play an evil character, that means you're an evil person. Okay, so what happens when you run Paranoia? Does that mean only evil people can run Paranoia? Is that what happens? Because how, if you believe that, how can you run Paranoia without being evil? I want people to think about that. I'm someone who would consider myself now, in 2026, a Christian. I've always been a decent person, so it's not like I needed that to be a good guy. Though, I pretend when it comes to fantasy and having fun playing things out, can I get into the mindset of somebody I would think is twisted? Yes. Would I glorify that evil in real life? No. In reality, it horrifies me and makes me disgusted. And even though I can play it out, maybe even enjoy it in a fantasy game, when I see it in real life, I'm automatically disgusted. How can those two things go together? See, if playing an evil character makes me evil, how can I be disgusted by what you identify as evil when I encounter it in the real world? Wouldn't I just, if I'm evil because I play an evil character, wouldn't that mean when I see something evil, I would right away be like, okay, I'm good with it? How would I be disgusted by evil in the real world if, if I'm evil? Basically, what I'm saying is I think it's complete bullshit. I can get into the mind of an evil person and have fun in a fantasy game because I know I'm not really doing anything to anybody real. It's an imaginary thing. It's an imaginary thing, right? I can play an evil character, be despicable, and actually enjoy it. When I hear people can't play evil campaigns, I'm like, Well, what is it to be evil, man? And that's a lot of people confuse that too. Like, do you just think being chaotic and running around just killing somebody in a game means you're evil? Nope. I wouldn't identify that as just evil. That's chaotic. That can be somewhat a form of evil. But I really don't buy that to play evil or even enjoy it, even to get into it, is bad in itself. I don't think it warps the mind. I really don't, because I've never went on to play an evil character and then left the game and went, man, I'm really okay with the evil I see in life. So I think humans can create different compartments in their mind and they can separate things properly. I think we have the ability to do so. I can enjoy a twisted thing when it's fake and not real, because I know in my mind that that is all make believe. Like, I know there's no real guy getting hurt. And that's important, because when I know somebody's really getting hurt, I'm disgusted by it. See, it's the reality of the outcome becomes the thing I'm against. But if I know a character that doesn't even exist and we're only pretending the character is harmed by a certain action, then I don't care. It's like, and if evil is a thing like that, it's like, well, how could you run around the game killing creatures or killing other people in a D&D game, for example? Isn't like, how can you do that? And then what? You don't want to go around like, harming people in life? But you don't, do you? You don't. Because we have compartments where we know if I'm killing the goblin in the game or the bandit, I know that bandit or goblin is not a real being. And I would never feel this unemotional, like unattached feeling when it comes to real people. So the idea that playing an evil character or even enjoying it to a degree or playing into it means you'll be evil in real life, I don't think it holds water. That's an important thing. That's an important detail. There, that's a topic I figured I cover, because I've heard so many people talk about the evil thing, and I ran the paranoia game. I played evil characters, and I absolutely enjoy these aspects. I can play a very twisted character and have a lot of fun, and just not really care what I'm doing, because I don't really take a fantasy character as somebody real. And the idea of really harming somebody in life is something I'd be completely opposed to in that way. So there you go. That's my take on playing evil. I don't think it's anything but fantasy. There are so many things that do warp people's minds. It does brainwash them. It can trick people into doing things that are not good. I do believe that's all real. I just don't think that happens in these games. I think we're able to create these different compartments in our mind where we, even unknowingly, understand this is not real. That I know a lot of people I would think are good people that can do a play where they play an evil person, but in real life, I know them from stage acting, and they wouldn't harm a fly. I mean, sincerely, wouldn't harm a fly. Can play an evil character on stage, wouldn't harm a fly in real life. So there you go. That's my take on playing evil characters. I think it's completely acceptable. Though it's not simple either. I wouldn't want to be in a boring game where people are just running around being jackasses, because I think there is a separation between being a rude person and being an evil person. So a lot of what people classify as evil, I don't, because I'm like, look, I think you can be a mean person without that being evil in itself. And I think it's stupid to confuse the two of them. Because I know a lot of good people out there that can be very mean in life. Mean. But are they naturally evil due to that meanness? Or is that meanness coming from an evil place? I don't think it is. I think it's just some people have a warped view on things, and they think some people can actually think it's good to tell you to F off about something. I actually think it's come from a good place. Like, you should tell someone to F off, right? In certain circumstances. So I don't like to simplify things down. Bores me. Boring. Okay, here's the deal, folks. Anybody who ends up watching this, we gotten this far. We're an hour or so in. When I'm done this, we're going to start coverage of Tribe 8. Little dry for this week. A lot of people busy. A lot of my audience are busy. They're busy people. Yeah, and sometimes it just happens. Some weeks in YouTube are a little slow. Sometimes streams, some of my streams during some weeks like this are picked up afterwards by a lot more people. So if there's not too many people around, let's just get to the content so I can cover it for you, and then we'll go from there. I don't mind staying longer when there's chat and there's more conversation, but that's because I'm answering questions. If chat's not around, we'll just get to the topics and have some fun, right? Do that. It's up to people. They talk. If they don't talk, not much I can do. I can give you all the time in the world, baby. But if you don't want to interact, that's fine by me. if people are just too busy to interact, I totally get it. Right? Then go talk to some boring people that will barely pay attention to them and talk on panels to other people. Some people enjoy that, man. I totally get it. Some people enjoy that more. I don't mind having a watching audience where I'm just talking, but if it's just, I can enjoy performing as well. But at a certain point, I could talk for like an hour, which I've done. I can perform. And I do the content. I will stay longer and do 3 or 4 hours when there's chat, but I don't need chat to get the couple hours I'm going to get in, right? Very happy to perform. I hope people enjoy the videos today. I hope they get picked up by the algorithm at one point by people wanting to check those out. It's Babylon 5, the tabletop role-playing game, Savage Worlds, and Hollow Earth Expedition. And each one of those games are very good games. Very interesting stuff that I think people should check out. I hope them pretty well, right? Plus, it gives people a preview, like a look into members only. Like, this is what you're getting when I'm just doing members only content. So I think the members only content is really worth it. There's a lot of value there. And it's me covering games that are, the plan is to not be covering them for quite some time. So it really is an early jump into some games that I normally would not cover under the conditions that I cover games right now. Kaboom. Certain things I just won't do because so many people out there do them. I won't just talk about 1 or 2 games all the time to appease a certain crowd. I don't complain about WotC all the time because, look, dude, I don't get to complain about WotC. There's so many people out there doing it, it bores me. Right? It bores me. It really does. And, some people tell me there's good, cheap gimmicks to grow on YouTube. I'd rather grow slowly and hit a certain peak by doing very interesting, unique content and take a long time to get somewhere than to cheaply do, hey, Steven, do a 2nd edition. And then I do videos every week on 2E, streams all on 2E. Like, I get there's audience, there's a small portion, a small ceiling audience for certain stuff like that, but I'm like, dude, it make me not want to do YouTube. Like, Steven, you're growing. I'm like, yeah, but I'm bored out of my fucking mind, and it feels like it's just dragging my life down. I'd be unhappy. I don't want it. It's like, yeah, but you might make this. I'm like, well, dude, whatever I do, if I have any success on YouTube, I want to do what I'm happy doing. I don't want to turn this into an unhappy, unrewarding job where it's like, okay, I'm doing content, but I'm talking about 2E. No, dude. All the other YouTubers out there do 1E and back me, 1E, back me, 1E, back me, or attack Scott and WotC, or have generic panels of the same certain set of people and they got a built-in audience. And I'm not against anybody doing any of this stuff, but it's like, to me, it's repeated work. Like, I do a lot of work on this. I really do. I mean, a lot more work than I hear other people doing. Even when they say they're doing a lot of work, I'm like, oh, dude, what you call grind, I casually do, but I've been doing that grind for years. So what's tedious to some of the guys doing YouTube here is pretty casual to me. I find the work not hard. Like, it's hard work for them. I get it. Prepping their stream, prepping the questions. Yeah, it's just sorry, dude. That's easy stuff for me. That's easy stuff for me. And I'm not saying it's any less what you're doing, but it's just I don't find it to be the tedious work that you find it to be. I actually enjoy that process, even after a long period of time of doing it. I've been doing it for decades. That type of work in the gaming area or work in life, right? So I don't mind it. But yeah, I want to make sure I'm enjoying this. And the difference is, even if I don't grow pretty big, I have a lot of impact. Like I have a lot of YouTubers that check me out. See, a lot of the audience will check them out. A lot of them will check me out. I have a great impact on the conversations because I do interesting things. And I know a lot too. See, a lot of the guys here that cover just AD&D, 1E, or BECME, that's all they know. That's it. That's what they know. They have to be informed by me because they barely know anything about the hobby. They barely know anything about these games. I know a lot. I know a lot more. And then when I start putting things out, everybody starts copying who I am. Hey, man, I run a lot of games. I do this. And suddenly, they never really said that about themselves before. But there they'll be on somebody's stream going, yeah, well, I'm out here. I ran a lot of games. Well, I'm glad you're listening to me, dude. I still dwarf you. How many you do? 20? How many? Don't compare. Don't compare your 20, your fucking minimal amount of games to what I've done. Please stop painting yourself up like you're not competing with me. You're not on my level. Sorry. Got to tell some guys out there. I don't care how long you've been doing YouTube. I don't care how much authority is in your fucking voice. Let me be clear to almost every old school tabletop role-playing game YouTuber out there. You are not on my level. Period. End of fucking story. Don't pretend you are. Don't waste my time. You bore the piss out of me. You ran 20 or you ran 10, played 10. Sit down, kid. You're not on my level. Period. Right? So don't compare. And the fact that you're comparing yourself to me without saying my name out loud, of course you are. Because the reason you'll compare yourself to me is, well, I have impact and people are checking out what I say. So, yeah. That's it. That's why you compare yourself to me. That's why you're not comparing yourself, even if you don't say my name. You're not doing that with other YouTubers. Why is that? Why do you have to, if I say this many games, you got to say that about yourself in comparison to me? And you're not doing that with what other guys say. But you're not on my level. You don't have my wisdom. You don't have my understanding about these games. Any YouTuber, old school YouTuber out there says, well, it's like I remember hearing some guy, a bunch of guys say, well, you copied this YouTuber about second edition. He did a video and you just copied him. I'll tell every old school tabletop role-playing game YouTuber out there right now. I don't care if we like each other or not. I never have to copy you. I know more than you'll ever know, even about second edition. Are we fucking clear? That I know more than you. Period. End of fucking story. I never have to copy a word you say because I know more than you know. I hope I'm fucking clear on that. That I know more than you and I'll never have to copy you. I'll never have to copy you because I know more. Right? I don't get to copy anybody who knows less than I know. Good. That's for future, for certain people. Anybody who says I copy them, I don't get to copy anybody. Nobody. I hope we're clear on that. Nobody. But lots of people copy me, though, because I know more. So there. I hope we got that straight. Hope that's all clear up, kid. All right, getting it ready. This one's going to be good. Try bait. It's a shame. I don't think a lot of Canadians will even know this game is Canadian. A lot of the Canadian guys in the old school don't like me. But it's a shame they don't like me. This one they should want to know about. They should. They should. They don't, but they should. When people say I don't have friends or I'm shy and I fucking live in a fucking bubble or something like it, dude. I have confidence over spilling, my friend. I talk to everybody in life, and I'm not shy at all. I'm a game master, a public game master. Most of these pussyfoot fucking people around here are people that play with their friends at home and met the odd stranger. I went out into the fucking real world, met fucking nerds that had no fucking pity for me, had to run the game out in the fucking wild with people that would verbally rip your fucking head off. Trust me, I can handle this shit. Very confident guy when it comes to running games. I am king. Right? And I live up to it, unlike a lot of other people in the hobby. The real thing. I run games. I manage. I'm an authority figure. I have confidence. I speak to people. I have friends. I have confidence. They couldn't fucking buy. All right. Let's go. Let's begin. Tribe 8, 1998. Influences and birth of the game. A Canadian vision of the apocalypse. Tribe 8 was created by DreamPod 9 and released in 1998 using the company's Silhouette system. Its setting drew heavily from Montreal's geography, Quebec's cultural identity, and DreamPod 9's Canadian perspective, giving it a distinctive voice at the time when most post-apocalyptic RPGs were rooted in American wastelands or a generic fantasy world. Rather than focusing on military survival or endless scavenging, Tribe 8 explored culture, spirituality, leadership, and the challenge of rebuilding civilization after its collapse. DreamPod 9 takes a new direction. Before Tribe 8, DreamPod 9 had become known for games such as Heavy Gear and Jovian or Jovian Chronicles, both rooted in military science fiction and giant mecha. With Tribe 8, the company deliberately shifted in a different direction. Instead of a futuristic warfare, it created a setting built around mythology, religion, politics, prophecy, and personal identity. The result demonstrated the studio could create compelling worlds without relying on giant robots or advanced technology. A different kind of post-apocalypse. The apocalypse has already happened. Humanity survived, but civilization was transformed. Players enter a world where communities have already begun rebuilding. Society once again has leaders, laws, traditions, religion, politics, trade, robberies. The question is no longer how to survive another day. The question becomes what kind of civilization deserves to rise from the ruins. So think about the idea of like, it's the apocalypse has happened. You went through a lot of stages up to a certain point where finally you're starting to crawl out of the ditch. But what do you create? What is going to come out of the ditch? Mythology over technology. Technology still exists, but it is no longer the force shaping civilization. Instead, the setting places greater importance on faith, tradition, prophecy, spiritual beliefs, leadership, community. Old world technology survives where it can, but the future belongs to the cultures and beliefs that emerge after humanity's fall. Influences. Tribe 8 draws inspiration from numerous historical, literary, and religious traditions. Major influences include Celtic mythology, biblical imagery, Abrahamic religious traditions, indigenous and tribal social structures, post-apocalyptic fiction, dark fantasy, mystic, and prophetic literature, psychological symbolism. Rather than adapting a single mythology, the game combines many influences into an original spiritual cosmology. Biblical and religious imagery. Religious symbolism appears throughout the setting. Players will recognize themes inspired by prophets, angels, revelation, exile, temptation, redemption, sacrifice, and faith. These ideas help give Tribe 8 a unique atmosphere without directly recreating any single real-world religion. The 7 tribes. Human society is organized around 7 distinct tribes. Each possesses its own traditions, cultural identity, leadership, customs, priorities. Their differences create political tension, alliances, rivalries, and debates over humanity's future rather than reducing every conflict to simple battles between good and evil. The 8th tribe in Tribe 8. The game's title refers to one of its central ideas. The player characters belong to the symbolic 8th tribe. Rather than remaining loyal to one of the original 7 tribes, they represent people attempting to move beyond old divisions and build a new future. This idea places change, unity, and the possibility of rebuilding at the heart of the game's identity. The Fatimas. Following humanity's collapse, 7 mysterious beings known as the Fatimas guided the surviving tribes. They are revered as protectors and spiritual guides, although their true nature becomes one of the setting's central mysteries. Some accept their guidance completely. Others question their motives. As the story unfolds, players are encouraged to decide for themselves what the Fatimas truly represent. The Z-Bri. Well, I've heard people say this many different ways. The Z-Bri. The greatest threat to the new civilization comes from the Z-Bri. These are twisted beings. These twisted beings were once human before becoming something profoundly different. They embody corruption, domination, and the loss of humanity, serving as both physical enemies and symbolic reminders of what people can become when consumed by darkness and power. Montreal, in Quebec, reimagined. The setting transforms Montreal into the city of Vimeri. Its geography still echoes the real city, but centuries of catastrophe have reshaped it into something both familiar and alien. Ruined districts, sacred places, tribal territories, and dangerous wastelands create a setting that feels grounded while remaining distinctively fantastical. Identity and community. One of the game's strongest themes is belonging. Belonging characters aren't simply fighting monsters. Let me start that again. Identity and community. One of the game's strongest themes is belonging. Characters aren't simply fighting monsters. They constantly face questions such as why or who do I belong to? Which traditions deserve to survive? What should the next civilization look like? Can old enemies build something better together? These questions drive much of the game's drama. Hope in a broken world. Although Tribe 8 explores suffering and loss, it is not a setting built entirely on despair. Actually, it's sort of weird. As much as this can sound dark, the game it's meant to really push sort of a brightness and hopeful side of it. And it really tries to really drill at that, even though it's sort of built on like, here's despair, here's darkness, but here's us coming out. We're shining, we're rising up out of the ashes. It really makes a big issue with this. So let me start that again. Hope in a broken world. Although Tribe 8 explores suffering and loss, it is not a setting built entirely around despair. Communities continue to grow. Families still exist. Leaders emerge. People create traditions. Different factions simply disagree on how humanity should move forward. Some seek freedom. Some seek order. Some seek power. Hope exists, but so does conflict over what that hope should become. A living world. DreamPod 9 designed Tribe 8 with an evolving meta plot in mind. The setting was intended to grow through future supplements rather than remain frozen in time. Major events reshape the world, allowing long-running campaigns to experience meaningful change as the official storyline advances. Okay. So there's your fluff. It's a good fluff start. Okay. Now we go into how to run it. So this is for the game master. Good advice. Lead with hope, not despair. I had a lot of time running this game. I ran this for about a year. Like you're running this in D&D and some other stuff, but I ran this for a good year where I ran a lot of consistent sessions with this game. And it was a lot of fun because I was able to get a lot of people like, yeah, this is in Canada. And then it's like, where? Quebec. They're like, that's not Canada. Joking. Joke. Haha. Joke. If you know anything about Canadian politics or history, you know there was a big separatist movement in Quebec over many years. And that's there can be some jokes with that, right? It's in Quebec. Well, that's not Canada. Haha. Haha. I have no dog in that fight. Not something I care too much to. I'm in Nova Scotia, Canada. I don't give a fuck. Be real with you. So lead with hope, not despair. Tribe 8 is a dark setting, but it's not about giving up. People have already survived the end of the world. So the idea is this is an apocalypse again that has already happened. People were in the fucking ditch at the bottom, and this is after that. So what happens when you finally pull your shit together? Right? That's sort of the idea of this game. It's you're not in the middle of the fall. You're not just at the direct aftermath, right? You're at the okay. We finally got people together. We've come together. What do we do now? That's where you're at. So now they are trying to build something worth leaving behind. Show, and this is what you want to do as a game master. Show communities rebuilding, families surviving, traditions returning, leaders emerging. Young people growing up in a new world. The struggle matters because there is still something worth protecting. So basically, it's not about surviving it, it's being survived. It's what you got to think about this game. It's not surviving an apocalypse, it's being survived. It's about shaping what is going to be left behind, what is going to be built, what is going to evolve. So now that you got the groundwork is already done when you start this game, it's where do you go from there? Make every tribe feel like a culture. Each tribe should feel like a living society, not simply another faction. Think about their traditions, customs, beliefs, leadership, festivals, daily routines, view of outsiders. When players visit another tribe, it should feel like entering a different culture instead of meeting another group of NPCs. Here's some good advice. I want you to think about each tribe like its own mini nation. It's the best way to look at this. It will make a lot more sense to you, too. It's what the designers want. How would you make each tribe, different and not generic or not the same? Look at them like they're small nations. And then look at the cultures of nations, around the real world. And the idea is to apply that. The differences matter here. Like extremely matter, right? So it's like the difference between Australia and France, Germany and the UK, right? Like it's the extreme differences between the cultures are to be presented. You want them to be that different that there's not really an extreme, generic, relatable thing. You want the differences to show off. Like, it's what are the differences in law here? How do they perceive things? How do they treat outsiders compared to these guys? Like the Japanese. I grew up when you'd be told to go over to Japan, Japanese people, wouldn't matter how long you lived there, would not accept you as Japanese. Right? But another place you can go to, man, yeah, if you adapt, they'll accept you, right? So it's finding differences and playing them out on purpose. So presenting them every time you go to a new tribe, they need to be presented not in how your character is going to be treated, but it needs to be seen. I've explained this before. How do you feel something or experience something in a game? I can walk into a town. You could initially, outside of the game, tell me about it. But if I don't see say the guards and the way they treat certain people, if I don't hear the thing, if I don't see the thing expressed in front of me in some way through people, how they treat each other, how they talk to each other, how they do things, even if it's not directed at my character, it's hard for me to take in how the place is different. Because if I don't see that, if you're not describing that to me, I don't feel it as a player. I just walk in, it's a town, there's an inn, or there's a bar. So everything becomes samey. If you want the differences to stick out, you don't always have to direct everything at the characters, but you need to have them see how people are treated. And maybe in some cases, it is what's directed at the characters. Like the characters walk in one place, hey man, you're welcome. Come on in. Get to another place. Look, we really don't want you coming in here. Like, you want them to feel that when you can direct it at the characters, but you also want, if you can't direct something at them, it doesn't mean they can't have it explained to them. Like, you see how aggressive these guards are compared to how law is enforced differently over here. So that's all you really got to do. Just make sure that even if it's not directed at the characters, direct differences or noticeable things, even interior, how a place is, what it looks like compared to the other. Like, these buildings look like this. They usually, like, small things matter. Small things matter. Seeds in the mind, right? Every tribe has strengths and weaknesses. Avoid making one tribe obviously right. Every tribe should possess noble traditions, good intentions, serious flaws, internal disagreements. The balance makes political conflicts much more believable. Meaning nobody's perfect, dude. Like, this place, pretty good, but there's some things where they get it wrong, completely wrong. Over here, man, now it doesn't mean the negatives can't stick out more. So you might have a place that is, I mean, for the most part, on certain things, almost important things, it can be right, but man, they're fucked up here. Another place, you might purposely have the more potent things be really negative, but guess what? On these things over here, they're actually really good. Like, it's actually good. They got it right here. And so never make just somebody, again, no black and white. Like, don't play good evil here. Not good tribe, bad tribe. To a degree, negative tribe, positive tribe. Think about it that way, but imperfect in both cases. And you want to make sure that's real. So make sure when you're ready, like, it's okay, these guys they're bad on this, and that will stick out, but they're actually good on it. Make sure that's a big thing when you're putting this together. And it really does make them believable, because no place is perfect. And believable means relatable. When I wrote the word believable, I should have wrote the word relatable to the real world. Because when something is believable, the reason it's believable to us is because we've experienced it in reality, in the real world, right? So that's how you make something relatable, believable. It's something, well, that's what the real world's like. No place is perfect. So you make sure that this place, all these places, are not perfect, or not one thing. Build stories around communities. The greatest challenges often involve helping people rather than defeating enemies. Communities may struggle, poor harvest, disease, resource shortage, tribal disagreements, leader disputes, old feuds, difficult winters. Helping a village survive can be just as memorable as defeating a powerful enemy. And in a game like this, that type of advice is really good because it's really the issues that these places and the tribes are going to run into, right? And it really can be good to get out there, do the work, and find out, well, yeah, because you actually went out and did that, these people are going to be fed through the winter. Like you actually feel good about doing it. And this game makes it that you'll feel good about doing it, right? Faith shapes everyday life. Faith influences far more than religion. It also shapes leadership, identity, laws, traditions, family life, community values. Allow different people to interpret their beliefs differently. Some may be deeply devoted. Others may question everything. Neither approach should automatically be treated as correct. It just, again, this game really wants you to make everything relatable and like nothing's ever black and white. Nothing. So it's like what people believe or even what they question should mean that even the people that question aren't totally bad people, right? Or you know what I mean? They're not perfect either. There's some things maybe belief could help them with, but some things are good on. But even the believer, there's some things they're going to be flawed about, and some things are going to be good on. And that's relatable to the real world experience that you're going to have. And so with all the uniqueness in this game, where it's way less generic, it's not generic like Unknown Armies. So it's way less generic. So in a way, you have to bring that sort of real world, generic side in yourself. You have to apply it in the way you're looking at this because it's so unique. The Fatamas should remain mysterious. The Fatamas should never become simple quest givers. Allow players to wonder, can they be trusted? Do they always tell the truth? Are they protecting humanity? Do they have their own agenda? The mystery surrounding them is far more powerful than explaining everything. This is something where it's like Doctor Who. Here's my best example. Doctor Who is, well, before the recent destruction of this, but before the last 2 seasons, before that ever happened, what's a trait? What's almost a character trait about Doctor Who? You don't know if he's really outright good or bad. Like there's potential that he's not a good guy, but then there's potential that he's a hero. And sometimes he is a hero, and sometimes he can do something wicked. And you're like, well, which one? Is he evil? Is he good? And the idea behind a character trait like that is you never solve it. That is meant to be a piece of the storytelling forever with the character. It's how you tell the story with Doctor Who. It's always a maybe, so you can always play that as an aspect to the way you storytell. Get some weird people around here. Testing engines. But anyway. So yes, think about it like that. I want you to think about the Fatamas like that. They should remain a mystery, like mysterious. You never try to outright answer if they're good or bad, or if they have agendas, or if they don't. Leave that mystery to them. It's meant to remain like a trait rather than a problem to be solved. Let politics drive the story. Leadership is rarely simple. Present situations involving negotiations, resource disputes, tribal alliances, broken promises, rival leaders, difficult compromises. The player should often feel that there is no perfect solution. So basically, you're constantly going to run into problems where, how do you solve it? You're really not sure. Like, it is going to be conflict that is meant to drive what the groups want, what they're pushing, right? You can solve one problem, then you're going to have a new one. And there's meant to be a little bit of that pull, right? You can never, nothing's black and white in this game. I want that to be an important note on your end. Nothing is black and white in this game. The world still bears its scars. The apocalypse shouldn't feel like ancient history. Its effects remain visible everywhere. Show broken monuments, ruined neighborhoods, empty settlements, collapsed roads, forgotten battlefields, of maybe fights that happen like during the time or just after the time. Scarred landscapes. Humanity is rebuilding, but the world has not fully healed. Meaning, again, this game, Tribe 8, is not about you going through the apocalypse fall. It's not even about just afterwards, where you're in the middle trying to survive it. You got to look at it like, okay, we survived. But what does that mean? It's you're starting the game as people have finally created communities. You're like, you just got together and you're just like, okay, so we made it. Yeah, you made it. But now what develops? Now that you got some people farming, now that you got the tribes, now that you got some of this organized out, now what? Nothing's perfect. Now what? And think about you coming in with your characters in the game where you're trying to help manage whatever that thing is, and you're trying to help direct it. What is like you? Okay, we got communities, we got this. Where do we go from here? And you're trying to affect where you go from here. Built upon the past. The setting is layered. The ruins of the old civilization exist beside the newer cultures built by the tribes. Players should constantly discover traces of forgotten history, lost knowledge, ancient traditions, relics of the old world. The past continues to influence every generation that follows. So the past never really goes away. It's not meant to either. You're meant to be reminded of what the place used to be like. If you're someone who's grown up in Quebec or around Montreal, the idea is your Quebec and Montreal has not vanished, but you are in the apocalypse. So think about it's still there, but you got your old empty apartment buildings. Like Montreal is a shell of what it was, but it still stands. The monuments maybe half broken, but they still stand. The reminder that Montreal is Montreal, still there, right? Quebec is still Quebec in this setting. And so the apocalypse happened, it didn't just wipe everything off the map, but it wiped out a lot of life. And it's not like you could stay in the apartment buildings and survive. You come up, form these tribes, you picked yourself up after the end of the apocalypse, and you're at the survival stage again. But you can't walk around and forget what was. It's so in your face that you can't forget it. Montreal is there. Like parts of Quebec is there. You cannot go around, forget. It is so in your face that you can find the books that still tell the history. So, in many ways, much of that can still influence what is going to rise up from the ashes. Culture before combat. Spend time showing everyday life. Include moments such as festivals, weddings, storytelling, like actual story, like people reading, tribal ceremonies, shared meals, music, children learning traditions. These quieter moments give players something meaningful to defend when danger arrives. That means when you got guys going around the places where people are living, make sure they're around. It's like we're having a festival tomorrow, so they'll be around it. Make sure they see a wedding happening. Remember, all you got to do is have them see it. They don't always got to be in these things, but let them see it. Let them see somebody, reading from a book, telling a story to young people sitting around, right? Have them see tribal ceremonies from the overall tribe itself, what they're doing. Big shared meals that they're being invited to. Little music. Some people either playing out in the streets, or you have little get-togethers where people are just playing. Children learning traditions, meaning you see tribe members showing them what, kids, what they should be doing around here, how they should act, basically like an education system, but like out in front of you. So show that to the players with their characters. Let them see it by describing that as they're walking around. They see it. So they understand that these things are there, they are valued, and that is something worth defending, something good that they can relate with. Right? If you don't tell players they're saying this stuff, if you don't plant the seeds in their mind, they don't feel it. That's why, again, when you go to a place like anywhere, you have to, like, the difference between how, say, law enforcement might enforce law, how people behave, how the small differences between how buildings look compared to the other place. Like, these are the things that represent the changes and differences in little things between each place. It's all about planting seeds in people's minds. They feel it, they experience. It doesn't always have to be directed at the character, though it's beneficial when you can direct something at the character. But when you can't, at least describe that their characters are seeing the stuff as they walk through a town, going to a bar, going to a place, doing whatever. Use dreams and visions. Dreams should feel meaningful. Use them to hint at future events, reveal symbolism, build mythology, raise new questions, avoid explaining every vision. Sometimes uncertainty creates stronger stories than certainty. You don't have to have them live through dreams. You don't have to do this corny dream stuff where it's like, okay, you're going through here. All right, you wake up. Oh, you mean that was all a dream? Don't do that. No. That's dumb. That's dumb. Players don't like that. What you do is you can tell players that, like, their next morning when their characters get up, okay, hey Angela, your character has like this weird dream overnight, and just describe what the dream is. And what you're going to do is place some of these seeds of knowledge and ideas and potential future events into that player, right? To think about with their character. They can then communicate that to the other player characters. But it is that type of the way you share things. So it's, again, use dreams and visions, and maybe even visions. Like, just say someone's sitting there and talk's going on, but I'm like, man, you start like sort of semi-daydreaming. Like your mind goes off a little bit. But remember, it's not about taking player agency. Sometimes things just happen to people out of their control. Like, imagine you're just sitting there listening, but you're not saying much. Like, man, she's been talking for a bit, but here's what's weird. You barely tell what she's saying. You start imagining something out of your control, like a small daydream. And you can tell them they're having visions, right? They're seeing something. As she says this, something comes across your mind. War. It's what you call uncontrolled thoughts. See, a good game master, I understand when players say, don't tell me what I feel with my character, whatever. But I also tell players there are things that are not in control, that your character doesn't have a control in. It's like fading off or falling asleep or visions or when you're going to sneeze, right? I can enforce all this stuff and it wouldn't be crossing over player agency. You want to take advantage of that and say you might have a vision or use the dream. Again, dreams should feel meaningful, such as use them to hint at future events. Meaning there could be something in your mind that could be going on, like as a game master. And it's a way to give them a hint, like one of the player characters has dreamt about the potential thing they could be running into later, right? That you are thinking about, that they might end up running into given what they're going to do. Reveal symbolism. Maybe you want them to know a bit about something they're going to encounter soon, or you want them to think about it and start looking for it. It's a great way. Say they go into a city and they're not looking for something that you think would be vital. Well, you can say, okay, one of the characters dreamt and you've seen the symbol. And that will at least get players to consider looking for the symbol. That will help them find information. It's a dream about building like mythology. So like, it's all these things are all seeds you can plant, raise new questions in the dream. What does this mean? So it's a good way to help players think and get them on a path to be looking for things that would be beneficial, right? The Z breed. These are sort of the weird leftover people that have changed, should feel rare. So these type of Z breed things, these sort of deformed, mental case people, should be things that they don't often run into. The Z breed are more than enemies. They should feel like major events rather than appearing constantly. Let their influence be felt through rumors, corruption, fear, strange discoveries, survivor stories. When players finally encounter them, the moment should feel like significant, right? Meaning they can almost be like myth-like. They're talked about. It's like you don't know when you're ever going to run into one, but they sound freaky, right? And you spend more time hearing about them. And the game actually make that a thing where players spend more time hearing about them with their characters than they ever do the idea of running into them. And when they do run into them, man, it's rare, but then it's scary. And players will feel that if you don't overkill with them. So if you treat encountering these things as you treat it as the game master, your mind is to, whoo shit, when they hit these things, it's like big boss daddy time. Like that's in your mind. That's the way you approach putting them in there. If they're in there in that rarity, man, when players meet them, they will feel that. They will actually feel that. That's important. Encourage diplomacy. Combat should rarely be the first answer. Reward negotiation, mediation, patience, planning, building trust, finding compromise. Compromise doesn't always solve every problem. Sometimes today's peace creates tomorrow's conflict. The idea is combat is bad. Game master, that's pretty much it. I'll be simple here. Combat is bad. It's not like D&D. It's not like in any form. Meaning the idea players should always look to avoid it. And because you want that gameplay, that's what I mean about rewarding it. Right? So when they try to negotiate, don't try to make that so hard they can't. Right? And actually have them, if they can negotiate or any type of attempt, that's rewarded. They're actually praised as being good people. They're paid off. Somebody is going to help them. Like, you brought us peace, man. I'm going to take care of you. Remember how you had a hard time getting to that thing? I can get you there easier. So it's reward, reward, reward. First off, through actually through not making what they're attempting to do impossible. Doesn't mean it's going to work out, but you want to be as open-minded as you can be, because you want to reward gameplay you want consistently, right? You want them to always be looking to compromise. But again, it doesn't mean perfect, right? So it's okay that peace at the moment doesn't guarantee full-time peace. But peace is what you're looking for the most part, and combat is a negative consequence, not a benefit to the game. Make every leader human. Even respected leaders should struggle. Ask yourself, why do they fare? What burden do they carry? What difficult decision keeps them awake? What would they sacrifice for their people? The best leaders should feel like people rather than symbols. So make them people that are imperfect and flawed. Have them have these issues. And these questions right here, right? It's not just like it's in the text. So I'm giving you good questions here as a game master. This is what the game designers want. They're not always clear on this stuff. These questions, if you answer them for the different leaders, you'll start developing the type of leaders the game really wants, the experience you should be looking for. Let ordinary people matter. Don't focus entirely on heroes and tribal rulers. Show everyday people, farmers, craftsmen, traders, parents, elders, children. These are the people whose future depends on players' decisions. So just understand that what the players do, these are the people affected by it with their characters. So it should always matter. And more likely, the regular people will give you help before the rulers. And so as a game master, make sure that that's actually a thing. If the players are smart, they'll go talk to the parents or the craftsmen or the farmers or the traders. What can you help me with? Especially if these people know that what you're trying to do is to help them, right? So if the characters are doing that, boom, right? Small victories matter. The campaign doesn't have to revolve around saving the world. Success might mean preventing a famine, saving one family, ending a feud, protecting a village, preserving important tradition. Small achievements slowly shape a better future. So it's okay if the player characters are focused on just a conflict between two families. You don't always have to go with the giant story. Right? It's okay. A bunch of smaller stories can make up the longer game period, right? That you're slowly creating peace. It doesn't mean at one point there can't be a bigger story involved in it. But these smaller stories should matter as part of ways to fill in campaign time, give chance for characters to develop more through doing smaller things. So you're not just going after the big story. That's it, right? You want to slow down and have this type of pacing, right? Let characters become leaders. As the campaign progresses, the player characters should become increasingly important within their communities. They may become advisors, like offered opportunities. Like the more they're going to do, the more it should be acknowledged and not ignored by you, the game master. Like the people would notice, like these guys have been around doing all kinds of stuff. Of course, it becomes good PR. A tribal ruler might look, it's like, okay, everyone got to know them. It'd probably be good to make good relationships with them, right? So that it's almost like you're building up fame. That fame is going to pay off. So they may become advisors, negotiators, champions, protectors, founders of new traditions, because changes happen because of what they've done. Voices people choose to follow. So many regular people may be so inspired. And as a game master, you got to make it real. So if these guys are out helping the community, at one point you got to have farmers come up to them and stuff like that, going, "Man, I'd help you. Like I'd follow you guys if you needed my help. Like if you guys want help, we're here. Say something, I'll get you it. Right? Traders should say, hey guys, if you need a better deal, we'll make it happen for you. We can't do it for everyone, but for you guys helping us, helping the community here, we'll make sure we get you what you need." Right? So just make that stuff important. Leaders should grow naturally from their actions rather than simply being granted by title. So basically, now, of course, a ruler might give you based on something, but see, the idea is earning it. So the more you're going to do, just make sure these small things they're doing is heard of. They get back. It's like the idea that they helped out clear the famine. People are going to know about this. They help make peace between those two families. Wow, we thought those people were going to fight forever. You guys came in and saved it, right? Because that conflict could create trouble for the tribe and whatnot, right? Keep the future unwritten. No one truly knows what the next civilization should become. Different people dream of different futures. Some want peace, order, freedom, tradition, change, and unity. Allow those competing visions to challenge players throughout the campaign. Balance darkness with humanity. Moments of hope should stand beside moments of tragedy. Show friends laughing together, weddings, shared meals, music around the fire, children playing, elders telling stories, acts of kindness between strangers. These moments remind players exactly what they're trying to preserve before the bad thing happens. So it's like, again, this is about balancing it out. Showing. Very important. There's a very positive side to the game, but of course the darker side has to be the trigger to make players act and want to help, right? It's the bad thing that can happen or the bad thing that triggers, action or response. Leave the players with meaningful choices. The strongest ending usually doesn't come from defeating the biggest enemy. Instead, leave players asking, which traditions deserve to survive? When should old customs be abandoned? Is unity worth compromise? What kind of world should the next generation inherit? Those are the questions that define Tribe 8. They often stay with the players long after the campaign has ended. I ran this for about a year, and when we would talk afterwards, it would surprise me what the players would remember compared to what you think would matter to them. And it's so true. So there. That's I'm not done. That's of course, you know the deal. Especially if you're a regular here, that's the fluff, how the game was inspired, what influenced it, how it came to be. That's advice about how to run it, which is really great advice if you understand that game. We're having a pause now. Think about pause time. Then I'm going to go into character creation and then the setting. And then I'll go over a few of the game mechanics under the hood. And that will be it. It's all good information. I hope people enjoy it. I love Tribe 8. And it's a weird, it's not what you expect. You're not in the darkness of the apocalypse happening. You're not in the darkness of just after it happened and you're still in the ditch, not knowing where to go next. It's sort of weird. It's a unique take. It's the apocalypse happened, you're in a ditch, and instead of like, oh, you just get up to the point where people start coming together and the movie ends, think about you get to that point, but this is where this game begins. Tribes have formed, farmers have come together. Like, basically, some security in existing and surviving has been established. So this is like, oh, we apocalypse happened. Is it all over? We don't know. We struggle. Finally, people find each other. Finally, communities are made. Oh, there the story ends. We have a chance. No, that's right at the point where this game begins. Right? Because and with a bit more time by. So it's tribes that have already somewhat established, communities, weddings, faith, all this has already been established. And it's established in Quebec, Canada. And again, when you're in this setting, the idea is you're in a new world in that way, because you are survivors at the end of all this. But that doesn't mean the old world doesn't exist and it's not forgotten about at all, because what used to be the cities, the buildings, the stores, the buildings all still stand. Right? Like, it not perfectly. Like, some are caved, but I mean, they're there. Monuments are half up. You can still potentially get into places with books, right? Some things could be well maintained down in the basement somewhere in Montreal City, right? There could be still stashes of canned good food, stuff like that. That's how it still is still there in that way. But you're not just all scavenging in a disparate way. At least you're not at that stage. Again, this is like, oh, we found the brightness. We finally come together. Boom. No, that has happened. So much time has passed. Some things have been established. Now it's, can you maintain that and then still build on to the future? And the idea is player characters get to affect that. That's really the game. And there's some weird enemies. There's some strange things. We'll get into it, like more under the hood stuff. But it is all about trying to maintain what has been established. Basically, survival has been established, but it doesn't mean it will hold up. Right? And so the idea is the player characters come around sort of not exactly heroes, but in a way, good people. Right? The concept of playing evil characters isn't really in the game. So the idea is to be good. But in Canada. And you have to really, if you're someone from Quebec or whatnot, you would really appreciate the game. Especially because if you live in Quebec and you know Montreal, you'll just know. You'll know places. You could have the characters go there. You could have a lot of fun, right? I know a bit about Quebec and Montreal. Enough that make this interesting. But it isn't Canada, so it's a Canadian take. Canadian special. I should have put Canadian in the title. I might afterwards. I'll consider that if I think it matters. But there you go. So I've established sort of what it is, but there's way more. Character creation is interesting. The details to the setting, there's more to it. There's way more to it. And the rules I haven't talked about. Like, there's things I purposely have not mentioned yet. So it's like, because if not, the stream would be mostly over. But it's not, because I purposely have not mentioned magic and stuff. I'm leaving that alone on purpose. And we'll talk about how the dice work and all that when I get to the end of the hood stuff. So I'm purposely leaving that stuff alone until I hit it. But we'll be touching on that stuff going into the next part. So there you go. But at least it's not like Unknown Armies in the way it's Unknown Armies again, like I said earlier in the stream. was purposely generic, so it's hard to talk about that game and then like Unknown Armies and give you a way where I can say most of it. I explain it so it feels like Unknown Armies. Unknown Armies purposely tries to feel in parts generic in general. So in a way, the more generic I am about certain things is when I talked about Unknown Armies yesterday, is to actually lean into Unknown Armies in a weird way, right? Instead of leaning against it. So it's the best way I can explain it. And if you ever get the game Unknown Armies, you'll know what I mean right away. It's a great game. But you'll be like, oh, because if you go get Unknown Armies and then you go listen to the stream, you're like, he's fucking right. Like, he's spot on what the game is. Like, it's really pure Unknown Armies. But Unknown Armies in itself is very generic on purpose, so the supernatural feels really extreme when you run into it. That's the point of it. It's meant to feel really plain Jane, and then you are encountered with the supernatural. So it's a clash of extreme, generic, relatable, normal shit, and then slam. Right. So that means when you make a character, you're making a very generic, plain Jane character, right? In many ways, with a few hints of the supernatural stuff being talked about. When you go to Game Master, a lot of the areas you're Game Mastered is in the normal world. Like, you're actually meant to actually have the players running around living life, right? In a very generic, normal way in many parts. And the more I try to make that sound unique, the more I would actually get away from what Unknown Armies is. That's why I say it's sort of a shame. But in this one, given that it's tribes and the way they do things, it's just different. It has a uniqueness to it. And I hope you can hear that in the explanations. And I hope it's interesting because it is a weird take on the apocalypse, given that it's not like an apocalypse that happens or, in the midst of it, because that's what a lot of people would expect when they hear apocalypse. This is like, okay, all the trouble that you might have built the game around is done. Then what are we building the game around? And that's the interesting aspect of this. There is something to build around. But it's about partly survival, partly building these tribe things up and whatnot, and then encountering the few things that are lingering on that was created by the apocalypse, and then being reminded about the past constantly. Again, if you're someone in Quebec and got this game, you really be able to enjoy it, especially if you know the place really well, right? But it doesn't take much to look up what Quebec is. And there's enough in the description of the game that even if you're an American or somebody living in Australia, you can still run it. You can still run it. I mean, there's enough, right? So you wouldn't have to be from Quebec to run it. It would just help. It would. I don't know. Just common sense. It'd be like if the setting was in Australia, and an Australian got the game, and they know their place. Yeah, okay. It's going to be a lot more fun for them. They can dig in and do some more unique things. At a certain point, it's just like, even if you don't know Quebec or Montreal, you can use some of the things you could look up and some things that will say in the book, and then you could just be generic with the rest. Right? It's okay. And again, I hope some people check out the 3 new videos I put up, because it is about Babylon 5, Savage Worlds, and Hollow Earth Expedition. I'm not going to keep sharing out member-only content like that, but I do want people to be able to have a taste, a preview, a very edited preview, but a preview of what members are getting in the member-only streams. So it's like, hey, instead of just telling people what games I'm covering, now they can see samples of it. I won't keep doing those, so future member-only streams will not be edited down and shared into the public. So these 3 streams sort of edited down and put out is to show people, if you become a member here, here's what you're getting. I do 110% into them. 110%. Easy. Good stuff, too. Like, I actually love Hollow Earth Expedition. If you like Lost World, if you like the concepts of Indiana Jones and Lost World. That's what that game covers. Savage Worlds is just a great system all around, and you can always use Deadlands with it too. And Deadlands, as I covered, is fucking awesome. But Savage Worlds, it's a good generic rule set, like Fudge and some of those other ones. Babylon 5, it's actually not. It's actually really good if you like the show. Like, I actually liked it without knowing the show. That could tell you something, but I'm crazy, right? I can just make something out of nothing. But if you like the show, it's actually not a bad game. And so all around, if you like the show, you'd be very pleased with Babylon 5. But you also have to be someone who doesn't come in with a D&D mindset that you're like, especially new school. You can't go into it thinking the game is combat. You have to be someone who is, in a lot of games, a lot of tabletop role-playing games, where you're there to experience the character and what's going on, and you can enjoy other aspects outside of combat. Like in D&D, you roll the dice to search for the room, you roll the dice to do social interaction, and then you go do combat. Right? And these, and almost every other tabletop role-playing game, you actually do social interaction. You actually have to think your way through the game. You actually have to deal with things. And you have to enjoy that. That's why I think some people that only like action end up sticking to D&D the way they do. Like, why do most 5e people stick to D&D? Well, because the almost 99.9% of other games, most of them, are not action orientated in the same way. That's it. That is a huge difference. Even old D&D, even though it's not from levels 1 to 3, you're not supposed to be like overkill on action. Most people try to play it that way. D&D has always been this game where a lot of people want to focus on the action, treat it like a board game. So it's just almost every tabletop role-playing game is opposed to doing that. Just being real. Okay, Tribe 8. Character creation. Build someone who belongs. Characters should feel like they were born in this world, in this sort of tribal world place. Before choosing abilities, ask yourself, which tribe raised them? Important. What traditions shaped them? Who taught them? What responsibilities do they carry? What kind of future do they hope to help create? The strongest characters feel like products of the setting rather than adventurers dropped into it. So you don't want to be an outsider. You want to play characters that really are built off being people of the tribes. So players, you should be really focused on what the tribes are and then building a character that would fit in, not a character coming from the outside. Understand your tribe's culture. So the tribe you do choose to have your character relate to, learn about them. Talk to the game master about who they are, who the game master has established them as, so you can really understand the tribe really well. Look, it's not like a giant lore dump. It's not hard to take this information in, but this is really important. You really don't want to play a character who feels like an outsider to this stuff. Every player character comes from one of the original 7 tribes before becoming part of the 8th tribe. Learn more than just the tribe's name. Understand its customs, traditions, values, leadership, view of honor, and it can help you role play too. It can help you design your character so you understand where they're coming from, what they might believe, right? And maybe what they're against. They might be against some of their own tribe stuff, but it will help you develop who the character is really quickly. And also, understand the person's relationship with the other tribes, or the tribe's relationship with the other tribes. Like, is this a tribe that has conflict with a lot of the other ones? Are they peaceful? Do they do good trade? Are they someone a little bit? You'll know this from reading up on them. Those cultures influence those cultural influences should continue shaping your character even after joining the 8th tribe. Think about the 8th tribe like a tribe that is trying to lead all the other tribes into the future. So the idea that you're bringing these ideas over to the eighth tribe is not opposed to that, right? It's almost like forming a smaller tribe. That's what the eighth tribe is, to lead all the other tribes into the future. Decide how you found the eighth tribe. Not every character arrives for the same reason. Perhaps they choose to leave, were cast out, lost everything, were rescued, sought a new purpose, followed someone they trusted, went searching for answers. The journey to the eighth tribe is often just as important as life within it. So don't just make it a throwaway reason. Like what? Like you are born of a certain tribe, but how did you leave that to get to here? Not that you went out for a random walk and said, "Oh, I see the eighth tribe. I'll join you guys." It's not that. Like nobody just leaves their tribe for no reason. So were you cast out? And if you choose to leave, like again, you want to know why you chose to leave. Like it's the reason is important. So when you're deciding, I chose to leave because I felt like I was an outsider in the tribe. Maybe you feel like that, even though the character has some of the same traditions, or lost everything, rescued, sought a new purpose, right? But whatever, just make sure you have a sort of structured reason. Think about life before the adventure. Before the first session, imagine your ordinary life. Ask yourself, what was your daily routine in the tribe? What work did you do? Did you perform? Who depended on you? What did you lose? What do you still miss? These everyday details help your character feel grounded and believable. Now, look, this is about understanding who your character is, so it makes it a little quicker into the role play. Are they the biggest issues? That's an up and down matter, but this is definitely what the designers want you to do. So designers actually think this is really important. I don't totally disagree. It's small things to put seeds in your mind about who your character is. Create someone others need. So don't be someone who's just useless. Like just make sure it's not just about your character, not like a selfish thing. The strongest Tribe 8 characters aren't isolated heroes. Someone should depend on them. Perhaps they care for family, friends, students, elders, their village, members of the 8th tribe. Responsibility often becomes a stronger motivation than personal ambition. And the game's really going to drill on that. So you might think, I want to make a character who's going to kick ass and be all this about who they want to be. Okay, but how do they help the other people? The game is going to want you to actually, for that to matter, and most of what you're going to do involves you wanting to help people and lead them. So you should have a character that actually looks to have that mindset, right? Build around beliefs. Ask yourself, what principles will your character defend? What traditions deserve to survive? What beliefs are they willing to question? What future do they hope to help build? Your convictions often define your character more than their combat abilities. Now, here's another thing. Why is this important? All these questions I'm giving you. You should answer them as players. Here's why. A lot of it influences the game master. So when the game master is building up what you're going to do, what you're going to deal with, how they're going to come at your characters, this is your chance to lead the game master a bit, right? Really influence how the game master is going to come at your character. So it's not just you're getting to know your character, you're also giving information to the game master that will influence the game master. So make sure you're giving answers to these questions. And not every question is just asked in the text. So these questions are very important that I'm putting out here for you because designers want you to consider this stuff. They'll be a little vague about it, but trust me, it's a major thing. So again, build around beliefs. So make sure you're building around what your character believes. And make sure you are asking these little questions of yourself because the game will say to do this. Give your character flaws. Interesting characters aren't perfect. Possible flaws include pride, fear, stubbornness, distrust, guilt, prejudice, excessive idealism, reluctance to forgive. These weaknesses, I'm guilty. These weaknesses create opportunities for growth throughout the campaign. It's a personal weakness I have. So it makes people real. So we all have them. And your character needs to have one. You can't be playing perfect characters. There's nothing black and white in this game. Remember I kept drilling at you? Nothing black and white. Choose skills that reflect their life. Don't select abilities simply because they seem powerful. Instead ask, what work has the person done? How do they survive? What role did they serve? What knowledge would that they realistically possess given the type of character you develop? So all those questions that you're going to answer when you get finally to the skills and choosing them, be real, right? As much as this skill would be cool or powerful, you look back at your character and go, yeah, they probably wouldn't have it anyway. So align everything to make your character who they really are, right? Skill should tell the story of a person's life. Build a character who contributes. Communities survive because everyone has something valuable to offer. Your character might contribute through leadership, healing, craftsmanship, diplomacy, teaching, hunting, organizing people, preserving knowledge. Not every hero needs to be the best warrior. And because there's so little fighting in the game, and that way, a lot of things that you'll be doing won't be that. So, preserving knowledge is really good. Organizing people is really good. Hunting is fucking awesome. And these activities in these games or these things will make your character important. They help with your reputation. They help build your character up. They help get you the help. So it's really effective in the game to actually have these things that are non-combat stuff, right? Doesn't mean combat is not important at all. But be balanced in your thinking. Build meaningful relationships. A strong character has roots. Think about family, friends, tribal rivals, childhood companions, former teachers, elders, leaders, people left behind. These relationships help bring the setting to life and provide meaningful story hooks. It's like, the game master is going to wonder, like, do you have family? Okay, so it's like, it's everything. Oh, you have these family friends? These friends might want something. So it's all about creating little attachments where, again, hooks can be made. People could need your help. People could be looking for you. Maybe they can help you because you created the connection, right? Don't rush to trust. The A tribe brings together people raised in different cultures. Old rivalries and different traditions don't disappear overnight. Trust should grow naturally through shared experiences instead of being assumed from the beginning. So, yeah, it's just don't assume that because you're all in the same thing that everyone in that tribe is going to be okay with you, right? There's meant to be some conflict you got to work through. And actually, in the process of trying to work through your own conflict, it helps you figure out how you might negotiate. It will actually help you in gameplay. How do you help these two tribes negotiate? Well, this is how you two figured it out. You're both from those different tribes, right? It seems small, but it matters. Remember where you came from. Even if your character rejects their former tribe, it still shaped who they are. Old customs, past friendships, former loyalties, childhood lessons. These memories should continue influencing important decisions. So just don't act like, because you'll build the character based on still having some stuff that went from the tribe you came from. Allow that to affect your character. And don't forget it. Play that into it, right? Always consider who your character is, because you'll have a developed character. Oh, so unlike D&D, because of these minor things you're going to be answering and building the character on, in a way, you have a pretty well-developed character when you start the game. Something to actually lean on, right? And have an idea of how your character might think right away. So play to it, not opposed to it. It's like, man, I looked at your character. Yeah, your guy wouldn't say nothing like that. It even says, like, several times here, he would never speak like this. And like, it's, if all the signs say your character wouldn't behave in a certain way, well, then don't do the unrealistic behavior. Like, match up, play with your character to who they are. Or if you do go against something, have a reason, right? Don't just do it because it's a game, right? Play a little bit to the reality of it because the game actually expects that to be important to you and challenge you. Like, in a way, these early stuff is to put limits on you. And then you got to work through that. So it is meant to challenge you in certain ways. Like, it'd be so much easier if your character would just go kick somebody in the head, but they won't. So how do you deal with this? Decide what rebuilding means. Every character may imagine the future differently. Ask yourself, what deserves to be preserved? Again, what should be left behind? What mistakes should never be repeated? What kind of community should future generations inherit? Different answers naturally create interesting role-playing opportunities. And there'll be a lot of that. Leave some room to grow. You definitely don't want to answer everything. Don't answer every question before play begins. So, you might put like vague things in there. Like, you say who things are, but don't just have everything. Work with the group. Every member of the 8th tribe brings a different history. Ask yourself, why do I stay with these people? Why? What do I respect about them? What strengths do I contribute? What can they teach me? The group should gradually become community rather than simply adventuring party. Seems like corny stuff, but this is what the game cares about. Look, a lot of these parts sound a bit generic, but I'd be dishonest if I didn't communicate this stuff to you. It's just the plain truth, right? Build someone worth remembering. Not every character becomes a great leader. Some become trusted advisors, like I said earlier. Like, they can be like wise teachers, dedicated protectors, reliable scouts, spiritual guides, respected negotiators. Greatness comes from the impact your character has on other people, not just the title. If you don't believe me, that's the most generic part of the game is character creation. It's not completely, but the game drills on these generic aspects because it plays into gameplay, and there's some truth to it. It will, on the outside looking in, when I explain that stuff to you, the setting is going to be good. The setting is the unique part here, but it's going into the character creation. These are all seeds for gameplay. Like, remember, it's trying to direct you to play the character in a certain way. So all this stuff will actually achieve that. It can be boring to have to walk you through that stuff, but it's true. Right? Sorry about that. But it is true. This stuff works. And it's once you're in the game playing, you start realizing why all that stuff is. It seems very generic, but it's really effective. But let's get on to the setting. The setting in Tribe 8. A mythic Quebec after the fall. Tribe 8 is set in a post-apocalyptic future rooted in southern Quebec, with its heart lying in a transformed version of Montreal. Rather than presenting Canada as we know it, the game reimagines part of the country as a mythic landscape where ruined cities, sacred places, tribal cultures, and spiritual forces have replaced the modern world. Its Canadian roots gives the setting a unique identity, while centuries of change make it feel like an entirely new civilization. Remember, I said time has passed, right? Weimar, which is what Montreal used to be. The center of the setting is Weimar, a city built upon the remains of Montreal. It is more than the game's primary location. It is a symbol of humanity's determination to rebuild after catastrophe. Within Weimar, players find tribal communities, sacred places, ancient ruins, markets, political centers, hidden dangers, reminders of the old world. The city constantly reminds its people that civilization can be rebuilt, even if it can never return exactly as it once was. The fall. The old world did not simply vanish overnight. Human civilization gradually collapsed under oppression, suffering, and the growing influence of the Zebri. Cities fell, communities were destroyed, knowledge was lost, humanity was forced to rebuild from fragments of what remained. The result is a world where people still remember that another civilization once existed, even if much of it has already faded into legend. It's hard to fade when the idea is you're still seeing it every day. But it's so in the past, like so long has went by that it is sort of like that's what it used to be. Like talk of you're not living in shock anymore. You know what I mean? It's not in that same vein, but it's still there. Civilization has become myth. The modern world survives mostly through fragments. People discover ruined buildings, strange machines, forgotten roads, ancient records, half understood artifacts. Many no longer understand the original purpose of these things. The old world has begun passing from history into myth, creating a setting where discovery often raises as many questions as it answers. Meaning there's a lot of technology you wouldn't use that could still be found in the world, like through digging. You could still find that old basement sealed off where, wow, this can, like I said, the canned food could be there for like ever. The 7 tribes. Human society reorganized around 7 distinct tribes. Each developed its own customs, leadership, traditions, beliefs, social structure, relationship with the Fatimas. Together, they provide order, identity, and culture in a world still recovering from collapse. Remember, it's in recovery mode, not really in it. So it's like, think about what I said. It's that dark part is over. The 8th tribe. Player characters represent a symbolic 8th tribe, which we've already went over. The Z-breed, which I've already talked about, but we'll talk about it again. The greatest threat to new civilization comes from the Z-breed. These horrifying beings were once human before becoming something profoundly different. They represent corruption, oppression, cruelty, spiritual decay, a loss of humanity. Their influence reaches beyond physical violence, reminding people of the terrible price paid during humanity's darkest age. Synthesis. One of the settings defining spiritual concepts is synthesis. It represents a powerful supernatural force connected to the world's mythology and the extraordinary abilities possessed by many important characters. Without revealing every mystery, it reminds players that spiritual power is woven into the fabric of the setting rather than existing as something separate from everyday life. The River of Dreams. Dreams hold genuine significance within Tribe 8. The River of Dreams is a part of the setting's spiritual cosmology, connecting visions, symbolism, and the unseen aspects of its existence. Characters may experience dreams that offer guidance, warnings, or questions rather than simple answers. The game encourages mystery instead of complete explanation. Remember I said during the How to Run It part, dreams are an important tool, talk about dreams and visions. It is still normal dreams, but it's telling you, like, you can see what future events. So you can actually use dreams as a great way of seeding information, ideas, symbols that they never initially seen, so they go looking for them, right? So it's all ways to put seeds. And remember, when I say dreams, I'm not saying don't do this because it's really not a popular thing. Don't have players like playing in a dream. You walk around. Okay, you killed. No, you don't. You wake up. Don't do that one. Dreams should always be something, it's the next morning after whatever happened, and you're telling one of the players, or your character had a unique dream. It doesn't matter how you deliver it, write it out for them, whatever, but in that type of way. Or a vision could be, it happens while somebody's talking, right? See, and remember, visions can be something where it's not about a character having control. You're not taking player agency away to say somebody daydream, because these are type of things you can do with that are out of your control. It's like nodding off or sneezing, right? So visions can be something like that, right? They see something while somebody's talking. You just say to a player, you're not really hearing what she's saying to you or saying to the group, because you start like having this like weird vision go through your mind. And here's what's happening. And you can explain it to them. Right? They're seeing something. They're seeing a symbol. Something has triggered something, right? Where they are off to la la land and, in a daydream of a vision, right? A world where spirits matter. The physical world is only part of reality. Spiritual forces constantly influence everyday life. Faith, visions, dreams, sacred places, and supernatural powers all shape how people understand the world around them. This gives Tribate a mythic atmosphere that extends far beyond an ordinary post-apocalyptic fiction. Faith shapes society. Faith is not confined to temples or religious ceremonies. It influences leadership, justice, family life, traditions, community identity, daily decisions. Religion is woven into the culture itself. Make it part of everyday life rather than occasional background elements. So think about like everybody as I don't want to use this term in a bad way, but this is a good way to understand it. You're in a cult. You don't have to mean, it doesn't have to mean bad. But think of like a sort of religious cult gimmick. It's the best way to explain it. It really is. It will make sense to you. I know it will. So think about like almost everybody is a part of that. It's like religious communities, not like there's a church. Some people go to it, some people don't. Right? It's not that. It's community belief system. All right, so life in this new world. Civilization has begun growing again. People farm, trade, build homes, raise family, train apprentices, hold markets, celebrate festivals, preserve history through storytelling. The world is still dangerous. People are creating a new society instead of merely surviving another day. Beyond civilization. So what is it like outside of the main area? Like you're in Quebec and Montreal. Beyond civilization, outside the settlement communities lie regions filled with uncertainty. There are forgotten ruins, dangerous wilderness, ancient secrets, Zebrai-controlled territories, lost settlements, places untouched by spiritual forces. Every journey beyond civilization carries both danger and discovery. So anything outside of like Montreal or southern like Quebec are these type of places where they're dangerous, right? So a world that continues to change. The people that made this DreamPod 9 designed Tribate with an evolving storyline. Later supplements continue advancing the setting, allowing the world to grow and change rather than remaining permanently frozen in one moment of history. This gives long-running campaigns the opportunity to feel as though history continues moving forward. It's meant to do that. So when you're playing this game, you want changes to actually be constant in what you're doing. And it's a real big issue to the people that made the game, that it keeps evolving. Tribate transforms the ruins of southern Quebec into a rich mythic setting where culture, spirituality, and community are every bit as important as survival. It blends of Canadian inspiration, original mythology, evolving history, spiritual mystery, and post-apocalyptic rebuilding. It created one of the most distinctive campaign settings of the late 1990s. Rather than asking players to reclaim the past, it challenges them to imagine a better future where fragments were left for them. This is what they say. So a lot of these statements are from the actual people that made the game. As you guys know, I cover facts here. So most certain statements are usually by them. My opinions can be found in the character creation part and how to run it, because that's from my personal experience. The setting is I take what they say about this stuff, right? The DreamPod 9 thought it was really important. The silhouette system, that's Tribate uses DreamPod's 9 silhouette system, the same core engine found in several of the company's role-playing games. The rules are designed to stay approachable while supporting a wide variety of situations, including exploration, diplomacy, investigation, survival, and combat. Rather than overwhelming players with layers of subsystems, the mechanic provides enough structure to resolve a meaningful situation while allowing the setting and story to remain the primary focus. We're at the part where we're under the hood here, my friends. Attributes and skills work together. Every character is built from a combination of core attributes and learned skills. Generally, attributes represent natural abilities. Skills represent training and experience. In most situations, an attribute helps determine the number of dice rolled, while the skill reflects how capable the character is in that area. This combination allows naturally gifted characters and highly trained specialists to feel different in play. Rolling the dice. Most actions use six-sided dice. The basic idea is straightforward. Roll a number of d6s based on your attribute. Use your skill to improve your chances of success. Keep the highest die. Apply any relevant modifiers. Compare the final result to the target number. The mechanic is easy to learn while giving skilled characters a noticeable advantage. Margin of success. One of the defining features of the Silhouette system is the margin of success. Success isn't simply a matter of passing or failing. How well you succeed often matters just as much. So margin of success can influence combat, skill use, opposed actions, difficult tasks. This allows experienced characters to demonstrate greater competence without adding unnecessary complexity. Margin of failure. Failures are also has degrees. Barely missing an important task may produce a very different outcome than failing badly. This gives the game master room to create interesting complications instead of just treating every failed roll the same way. So when you succeed, you might just succeed. If you succeed really well, the game master can actually acknowledge that with the success. Same thing with failure. If you just fail, okay, not so bad. But you can fail in a critical way. So it's just basically saying there's different levels of failure and success with the way the dice system works. Derived statistics. Several important values are derived from a character's core attributes. These help determine such areas such as health, initiative, movement. This keeps character creation organized while allowing attributes to influence more than simple skill checks. Opposed roles. Many situations involve two characters directly competing against one another. Examples include negotiations, chases, stealth, physical struggles, leadership challenges. Rather than using only fixed target numbers, both sides may roll with their margins of success, helping determine the final outcome. So sometimes you're not just rolling against target numbers, you're rolling against other people's dice rolls. So there is like opposed rolls. Gifts and flaws. Characters may also possess gifts and flaws. These represent qualities such as natural talent, physical limitations, exceptional aptitudes, personal weakness. They help create memorable individuals while encouraging players to think beyond statistics. Arcana. One of Tribe 8's defining mechanics is Arcana. These supernatural abilities are deeply connected to the world's spiritual nature. They are not simply magical powers anyone can learn. Characters who possess Arcana often have unique relationships with the setting's mythology, making the supernatural feel personal rather than mechanical. Wounds have lasting effects. Injuries matter. As wounds become more severe, performance declines, penalties increase, survival becomes less certain. Characters are reminded that violence carries lasting consequences rather than being temporary inconvenience. Of Tribe 8's defining strengths. One of Tribe 8 defining strengths. What am I saying? Blah. There you go. There's all the uniqueness under the hood. I mean, I could tell you about the social role play is a big issue. Combat is meant to be dangerous. I could walk you through that, but I've already said those statements earlier. You're going to have to socialize a lot in the game. It's a major part of the game. Combat is extremely dangerous. Wounds will carry with you. They can affect you over time, so you've got to get things patched up as quick as you can. If not, you will degrade. You'll get more sick. You'll get more hurt, and you can die from it. You can literally just die from being wounded from combat over time, right? If you don't get it sorted out. There's a bit of magic. It's pretty simple and straightforward. Remember, mine is not to go. It's an overview here, so I want you to go look into that yourself. Right. That is, if not, I'd just be telling you about the entire game. The game is not huge. So there's several elements I purposely leave out, and you guys all know this. And my regulars know this, but I want you to go look at it yourself. I think the game is really interesting. Put it this way. Ignore today's politics when you hear about this game. It's the best I could ask. Because it's not like the game was made now. It was made in 1998. I want to remind you of that. So communal living, you get a bit of a commie feel from this game. I won't lie to you, right? There is a bit of that, especially if you consider today's politics. Back when I played it, like in the early 2000s, after it came out, you didn't think of this stuff. We just played the game. It's a very meant to be positive game. You are playing, I guess, heroes, but like more like people. The idea that you play evil, there's no alignment, so it's just assumed you're not playing evil characters. The game assumes that. The game assumes you're just going to play good people. And it doesn't really drill you on that, like you're spiritual good people. That's it. And even if you are slightly not so perfectly good, it more relates to the tribe you're from. Right? But still, good people. It's very vague on that too. It doesn't try to pretend, like it just says, look, there's a lot of gray here. So it assumes there's a lot of gray with your character, but overall you are playing, and we'll use heroes sort of in a light way. So the game outright assumes you're playing somebody trying to do good. But that is the game. Game covered. Tribe 8, Canada, Southern Quebec, Montreal. And the game is actually really good. I like the Z-Breeze are quite dangerous. They should be treated like a boss fight, right? Like it's like, basically combat is so rare in the game that combat itself is a boss fight, and combat's so dangerous that the fight should be a big issue. So it doesn't have to be like, it just means, look, if you go to find an important item, it's an important part of what you're doing and whatever thing you're doing. That, yeah, okay. And it's a game. Are you storytelling here? No, it's a game. You're trying to play the game. Story emerges. Yeah. Because even though it wants you to worry about dialogue, it still doesn't drill it out like you're trying to tell a story with the characters. It does expect you to, all your talk outside of the common things you're running into is meant to be competing, negotiation. So it is gaming aspect of socializing, right? You're trying to make deals. You're trying to do this. It's not just you go casual. You are to be presented with casual by the game master more than anything. Like you see the wedding. Like you could be invited there, but it's not about you needing to live through daily life. It's about more like you experience daily life. They worry. Tribe 8. Good stuff. Good stuff. And if you're Canadian, there's very few games out there that focus on Canada, baby, and post-apocalypse, and it's tribes. It's interesting. But it's a lot of role play. It's a lot of role play, which most games outside of D&D are. They're meant to be like, most games are mostly role play, mostly just like talk, like in character. Bushido, Burning Wheel, like it's most games avoid a lot of combat. If usually Canadian classic. Canadian classic, my friend. It's usually a straight up forward regular shit. Canadian classic. But yeah, that's what I would say is Canadian. This is after cover show. This is my Joe Rogan time, Maury. Before, during pause, and after is Joe Rogan time. When I do the direct cover to the game, I snuff this out for the time. Right. But it's if you just don't think of today's politics either, so don't get bothered by that type of stuff. Like just understand the game was made in 1998. There wasn't any intention of people thinking about how people think about things today. So It's tribes, and the tribal thing is to do with Native Indians. It is sort of taking inspiration because it is in Canada. So they form the tribes based on being inspired by like our Native Indian tribes, right? And it's so it's turning into that. It leans into that. It's trying to be more Canadian than anything, right? So you just got to remember that it's in southern Quebec and around Montreal, right? So and it's again, it's building on top of what used to be Montreal, but there's still so many things lingering behind, monuments, stuff like that, that are remind you every day you are in Montreal, right? And there are still things to be found, still things locked away. Not everything has been checked. People are still at the stage of just building a life, not drilling down. The technology to drill down, find stuff just doesn't exist. Communities are built off faith. Much of the old technology is forgotten. So it's more about growing food than it is about making machines that dig up earth, right? Go under buildings, get into places. So there's a lot to be found. That's a great thing is discovery, looking, searching, finding things, social interaction. But when you finally get to combat, it should be very rare that it ever happens. And combat is very diddly. And even the after effects of combat, if you're hurt or something like that, can still kill you over a period of time. Like if you just get an injury you're not taken care of. And there's most cases you won't have perfect magical healing. So you got to get like natural healing. So, combat can be very screwed up because of that, right? So combat is a very rare thing. You sort of treat combat like a major event every time it happens, right? It's not just casual. But again, I tell people that's most games. That's most games. Go play Traveler. Combat is something you should avoid. It's consequence. Nope. And if Rory, dude, you want to go talk to someone stupid? You want to try that again, kid? You want to test? You're not intelligent enough to play that game with me. And don't bother denying. Try it again. You go away. Try it again. You're not intelligent enough to do that. So go talk to another fool if that's what you want to do. But I'm way more intelligent than you. You get me? Are we clear? I hope we're clear. I don't like mediocre people trying to play games with me when they're mediocre. All right? Know your place, kiddo. Know your place, kiddo. If you're not intelligent enough to play the game, don't play it. That will either shut you up or the next thing you say will make you go away. One of the two. Fucking jeez. It's passive bullshit doesn't work on me. And there's a lot of idiots in the hobby who that works on, right? But I hate people that are fucking cowardly fucks. If you got something to say or you want to take a shot at me, be direct. If you can't be direct, don't pussyfoot around with me. Fuck him. Don't be so fucking stupid. Mediocre fucking trash. Jeez. Just don't waste my time. Uh-huh. think it's really popular to go on about Indy and Brampton. If you want to take your political shots at somebody, go ahead. It doesn't have to be directed at me. But to say I would sit there and promote that fucking idea. Let me tell you something, kid. So just so you understand my politics, and we'll leave it at this. I'm a conservative. A landlord in Brampton. I'm in Nova Scotia, you. Okay. All right. That's a shame. It's really a shame people are like this. Ah, man, it really is. Really is a shame. A landlord in Brampton. Gee, such mediocrity. It's like, just, dude, mediocre bullshit. Like trying to insult. Go talk to one of the old tabletop role-playing game YouTubers that will fucking buy that shit. Jesus fuck. I'll leave it up just so people can see the nonsense. Like I've said a million times, there's videos of me. I'm from Nova Scotia, Canada. I'm from Nova Scotia. Live streams, Nova Scotia, Nova Scotia, Nova Scotia. And the Rory guy is just a troll, but a bad one. A really dumb one. Hope you enjoyed that for a second. There solves the problem. No, at least he did it. Hey, folks. At least he did it after the game. And yeah, we'll go verify something else while we're at it. Just to make sure. It's good to check on these things, right? It's a shame people have to be this way in the hobby. It really is a shame. It's disappointing. It's like it's a sad shame. Yeah, it's almost a little bit too late for that kid. Sorry if it's not true. It's like, obviously, just fuck off. Jackass. Do you agree? It's like mediocre nonsense. Yes, of course, hide on the channel. Remove. It's such nonsense. Oh, well. You think people want to talk about gaming? I'm actually fun to talk to about gaming. It's like everyone knows Nova Scotia, mentioned a million times to bring it here. Brampton landlord, yeah, sure, okay. You just made that up. You're full of shit. You're stupid. It's fucking mediocre. I wish I had good trolls that would come after me. Intelligent ones that could take a shot at me and be like, even I'd be laughing like, fuck, that's good. Instead, I get these fucking just junk, throwaway fucking idiots where I can fucking pick them out as quick as I can get here. All right, there we go. At least I got to cover the game before that shit happened, which is, I appreciate. At least by the end, people just see me shit on some fucking moron. I love the audience, but I understand that's just a troll. So that's just me dealing with a troll for 2 seconds. No problems. Such a shame. And the guy had to sub to my channel to get to this stage. It's like, why? But hey, if you want to give me some support for a small period of time or get yourself junked out, whatever works for you, kid. I don't know. But that's like 3 hours, and I covered the entire game, and I think it's a pretty good game. A lot of fun. I like it. Okay, folks. I'm going to call it there because I got a lot of videos. Like, there's a lot of videos you guys can go check out. I got the members only videos up if you haven't checked them out. Just a lot of content up right now for people to check out. and a weekend of streams. And take the rest of the night off, and then I get tomorrow off. And then off script, I'll be here with a few subjects that I do plan talking about on off script, which will be a lot of fun. And so let's go over before I totally amoosh. Let's quickly go over this stuff. It's a shame that had to happen. But let's quickly go over the streams coming up just so you guys know. Little good reminders. So off script is Tuesday, you know, and then it's going to be AD&D 1E Monsters. The next weekend is going to be Bunnies and Burrows and the Legend of the Five Rings. The first members only stream that you guys will not see, because remember, the ones I put up today, the edited versions, are all previews, so you guys understand what you're getting with members only. The first members only stream of July is going to be Stargate SG-1, the role-playing game. Then I'll be covering Unearthed Arcana. The weekend after that, around July 11th, it will be Dragon Quest, SLA Industries. The next D&D one will be Fiend Folio. That following weekend will be Teenagers from Outer Space and Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. The second members only stream in July will be Exalted. Then I'll be covering in the D&D stream, the old school, AD&D second edition monsters. The final weekend of coverage for games for July, I'll be covering Conspiracy X and then Ars Magica. And the last, and you know off script is every Tuesday, but the last stream of July is July 30th, and I'll be focusing on the Tomb of Horrors. Oh, good stuff. Yeah. Pretty much, dude. You're just getting here at the end, Black Rose. Let's say hi to you for a minute. Why not? I went over the Tri-Bait Canadian game based in southern Quebec, around Montreal. What you did miss, Black Rose, you missed what I would call the witching hour moment. I blocked a guy who would remember before there was this worry guy. He said something, and because you know how nice you are. He said something, and I blocked him. And I said, man, I really feel like that guy was just talking shit. You were like, well, I don't know if he was. He might have just misunderstood something. So when I went to unblock the people on Restream, I decided to unblock him because you had mentioned that. You had mentioned he just might be a guy who misunderstood something. If you're going to give him a chance, and the first thing he goes right into the trolling shit. I was like, dude, and I called him out, and then he just kept digging. I was like, okay, fair enough. Let's fucking put this to rest. He's fucking gone. See, I tell you, my instincts are pretty good. Oh no, I'm glad you had the game. Tri-Bait is a good one. It's just about tribes, and it's like the apocalypse. So imagine the apocalypse hits in the world, and you can think most games might go after the apocalypse is hitting, or the game will focus on just after the apocalypse, and you're trying to get to where you can build back up. It's like the movie or the TV show might be to the point of it follows as people. Oh yeah, it's common. It's fun. I shit on the guy like I normally do. But in this one, it's the idea is just imagine at the end of the movie or something, you just got out of the ditch. You're finally meeting people. You come together, and groups start forming because there's some bright light. It looks like you've gotten through the darkest, and the world might survive. Well, this game sort of picks up there and then jumps a bit of time ahead. So you can imagine maybe 40, 50 years in the future. Number of generations are going to go through. Kids are being born. Tribes established, all based on faith. And maybe even a little longer than that. But either way, it's the old world is starting to mentally disappear out of people's minds, right? Young leaders are now starting to have finally taken over from old leaders. And everything is in the past, but it still stands as a reminder. Monuments from Montreal are still there. Buildings are still there, sort of half up, but you still have built over some of it. So it's sort of becoming partly myth, but part there. And technology is, a lot of it's lost. You built communities on faith, not technology. So there's a lot of things still hiding underground, basements, things untouched, shit like this, right? So there's a lot of mystery to be had. There is sort of a group of people that have lived through whatever the apocalypse was. There is a sort of weird form of some slight magic, and there is magic is supernatural. Dreams are a big part of it. You don't play out the dreams, but Game Master can deliver a lot of information through dreams to the player characters, and it will be more legit than just say some vague thing. If you're a special type of character, you can play on some spiritual stuff, push back. I liked it. And you got it, look, you got to ignore today's politics. The game is made in 1998. So you have to ignore today's politics, because if not, you might look at it and go, well, it's a little commie. I'll leave it at that. Won't say too much beyond that, but you get what I'm saying? Like, you could look at it and sort of go, but it's not. It's well, at least it's not. That's not the intent. It's more like the apocalypse, and building back is more like trying to lean into what Canada is. Like the tribes are inspired by the idea of native tribes in Canada, right? Like the original, natives and all this type of stuff, and you're sort of rebuilding, and there's Canada, and you're in southern Quebec in Canada. Any place outside of the southern Quebec area is considered dangerous. There is an enemy, but I got to say, combat is so, just like most games outside of D&D, combat is very rare and dangerous. Like, I mean, so rare that there's like one real enemy, and if you meet them, almost every encounter should be treated like a boss fight. So the rarity in encountering them should be extremely rare. And when you encounter them, you can even take damage where it's like because it's so hard to heal damage, that even after the fight, there's a good chance your characters could die for periods of time of just not getting stuff taken care of. Right, so combat's extremely dangerous. It should be almost avoided at all costs. Like, most of what you're doing is negotiating, trying to sort of lead the tribes, becoming leaders. You're trying to negotiate problems between them. You're trying to save people, like discover the food they need, help them overcome famine, go searching through what used to be Montreal to find stuff, maybe discover some old technologies, look at what's working with the tribes and what isn't, like what are practices that are bad, what could be good. So it's way less combat and way more social interaction and role play, but it's still gamey. It's not, character development is already started. You develop the character almost from the get-go in many ways. So it's not about storytelling. It is about sort of like a management game, trying to build up communities. So think about it, it's still gamey. But like most non-D&D games, that's why, look, there's a part, the majority that came into the hobby through TSR only like a lot of combat. Like, that's why they don't, like levels 1 to 3, they'll do combat. Even though the game says, even D&D says, avoid it from levels 1 to 3, almost all combat, right? No combat. WotC, D&D guys, mostly combat. Combat's a major part of the game. Almost 100% of games outside of, almost, not all, mind you. Some games like Deadlands and Savage Worlds definitely leans into a lot more combat, but still not as much as D&D, but more. But most games, most TTRPGs are social interaction, where social interaction is more combat than anything. And all combat is considered rare, like Bushido, Traveler, right? This game. There you go. Now, you might notice I put up some sort of edited members only streams. I did that on purpose, and I won't be doing more, but I put up 3, and the point of doing that is to let people get a chance to see it. These games covered in edited form, but they also get to see what members only is like. So I won't be putting up more on members only, but I want to give people a preview So if they want to become members of the channel, they know it's not just that I'm covering a game. Here's the coverage, right? So it's just telling people if you like Stargate SG-1, I'm going to cover that. People are never going to see that until I do a public version, right? But if they want to know what they're getting if they become members, they can check out the 3 streams that are up, which is edited versions of the Savage Worlds, Babylon 5, and our recent one, Hollow Earth Expedition. So I put those up on purpose as sort of just like previews to sell the idea of becoming a member here, right? Because, I do work my ass off even on those streams, as you know, Black Rose. And I think I give a lot of good information on those, which is the same as here, right? But now yesterday's Unknown Armies, what a shame. It's a game where it's meant to be super generic and plain Jane outside of supernatural because it's meant to be that on purpose. So when you encounter the supernatural, like it's a big issue, like it sticks out like a sore thumb because everything else is so fucking plain Jane generic, right? And I talked about that like earlier. It's hard to do that stream and cover that game and not be generic in my talk about it, because to say I'm trying to make it sound unique would be to actually get away from what the game is. Oh, here we are. I took it down because of the troll. Why leave up his comments? He had his moment, 2 seconds. He's gone. He'll never show back up again. What a shame, man, because it's like you're gone forever. It's like Black Rose, you know the deal. I'm fun to talk to about games. I don't know why people want to fucking say it's like, especially when you got the door open. Why would you want to sabotage yourself? Even if you're some other YouTuber and that's one of your like fucking socket accounts. Like, I don't care if you're faking or not. I'm fine to talk to. Yeah, it really is. Now, the Unknown Armies, I would be not doing justice if I didn't tell you, like, because I planted seeds on how to run it, the character creation thing. You go read the text, all those ideas are not in there. So it is a great brainstorming thing for me to help you get what the designers want and give you all kinds of things to think about that are more valuable than just reading the text, right? It will actually help you with the game. But the game is meant to be super, super plain Jane. So when you get the character creation, make it the character is to make a very plain person. So the best advice supports it, not goes against it. And then the other thing is, a lot of games, as you know, says don't make heroes, just make regular people. I get for regular viewers, that can sound very generic, but I tell you what, anyone who ever goes to play Unknown Armies, go back to my Unknown Army stream and you'll be like, oh, okay, that's really, really good advice. It is. It's fucking wonderful for the game. Now, for entertainment factors, that can be very boring. Do I know the person? It's that Rory guy. The guy with the Rory name. I can barely remember from last time, but random. He says, do you want to do a thing like a cyberpunk game about India and Brampton, which he's talking about Brampton in Canada, where they say, because there's so many immigrants there, that people jokingly, as an attack on Brampton, call it Indian Brampton, right? And now conservative Canadians are really opposed to it. But the guy is talking to me like I'm a leftist that basically doesn't understand who I am. Now, regulars know who I am, so they know how much that doesn't hold up against me. And then when I called him out, he's like, I heard you were a landlord in Brampton. I'm like, such a mediocre troll. What a boring, mediocre troll. Like, first off, no, you haven't heard that. You're just making shit up. And you're talking to me like I'm a leftist, like I'm a snowflake. Like, dude, most of the people that are the guys on that side now were former leftists themselves. So, like, most guys that will come along that in the past have not heard about me, they'll be like, oh, he's a snowflake. I'm like, well, 2 years ago, You were an Obama guy. So shut the fuck up. Most guys are former fucking leftist people. I'm like, so on politics, they can go fuck themselves. I'm like, I'm a lifelong conservative. The fuck you talking about? Stop talking to me, stupid. Now regulars will know that right away, and I just clarified that. And he has 2 seconds. And it's what? No, here's the good news, Black Rose. He only did it after I finished covering the game. So the whole coverage of the game, bang, baby, done. Then he says that. I'm like, well, okay. At the witching hours, I'll take it. I know you probably couldn't. It's so random because so many of them come across. But it was a guy a long time ago. I remember it just, you want to know what I knew right away? It was fucking around. But you know how you are. You're just a nice, open-minded guy. Like, that's why I said you should, we joked around, I think, the next week, and I said, you should never be a YouTuber, especially if people go against you, because people would rip you to shreds in a very passive-aggressive way. They would destroy your reputation, and you would sit there and smile your way through it, not knowing you're being destroyed. People would be laughing at you. This guy would be making fun of you, and you'd be standing there. Everything's okay, right? Because you're such a nice guy. I know you are. That's why you're not a public person like me, right? Oh, yeah, it's still a thing with some people. He had to sub, though. He had to stay sub to the channel to go through that. I mean, that's a dedicated hater. Probably a YouTuber under a different name is what I assume. Just a YouTuber under a different name. Old school tabletop role-playing game YouTubers, quite a few of them have multiple accounts. And you know how they are. They'll always project onto me what they do. They'll be like, Steven has multiple accounts. No, I don't. Like the 2 accounts I have is both YouTube channels that have content on them, and they're not stock accounts. Whenever I get accused of that stuff right away, I know the person accusing me of it has multiple stock accounts. Right away. So everything they accuse me of, we all know. Dedicated hater. Then I have so many of those. I have so many haters. It's silly. So many. I mean, some of the old school guys, man, when they get one hater, they're like, oh, I got a hater. Where I'm like, yeah, I got a bunch of those fucking guys. Oh, it bores me. It bores me because I want to talk about fucking games. Not be bored out by mediocre fucking people that suck at trolling. I used to be a fucking troll back in 2016. People don't even know. I don't even know the name I was under. Like, I was fucking impactful troll in 2016. Like, I put it this way. I fucking did some deep trolling. And so when I run into the old school tabletop role-playing game, old guys trying to troll me, I'm like, dude, take your fucking trash, put me to sleep trolling. That's mediocre as shit and dumb. It's so easy to call out. It's like breathing air. Like you can a good troll could troll you, and no matter how intelligent you are, you wouldn't know. You wouldn't even know, right? If you do it in front of me and you're mediocre, I will pick it apart right away. I'll know you're doing it and call you out. Whatever shit stream coming my way, but I just don't have the time or the passion for becoming a public person. I barely have the time to breathe as things are. No, I totally hear you. And you're just too nice of a person. That's what I mean. Like, some people just don't need the bothersome because they're not people that can pick up on shit. And it's how things are. There's so many people out here that are fucking around. And they know that that stuff will hurt your reputation if you're going to say something to it. So the intent behind the shit is what makes me not like people. That's what brutally gets me to cut off people, because I really look at the intent behind the thing you're doing. Not yours. Like, even if you lack success, I don't care. It's like, okay, you failed, but you were trying to destroy me in everything I've done out here. So when I know that's the intent behind your action, even if it was flopped completely, I will hold it over your head, the intention. Not your weak attempt. That's throwaway. But the intention I'll never forget. Because it's like, that's deep. Trying to destroy another human being over some gaming opinions. That's deep. The intention is deep. Like, it's not some small thing. You people come to destroy me and destroy my work and everything I've done. That's not some small little thing, right? So when you go that deep, understand, I acknowledge it, and I'll cut you off for your intentions, not for your bullshit flip-flop attempt that failed, right? It's the deep intention of trying to destroy me that I acknowledge. And I'll never forget it. I'll never forget. I'll at this stage, I can forgive to a degree. I can even stop hating you, but you'll never get another chance. Opportunities are gone. If there ever was one, it doesn't exist now. That's it. There'll be no recovery. You won't see me on the stream with you. We won't be talking. Ever. It's just how it is. How it has to be. Because there has to be a price paid for what people do. Right? So it's like, okay, you had your shot at me. That's it. Moving on. Oh, it's been going on 8 years now. I can handle it. I'm a fucking, like, the guys that come at me can't handle the slightest bit of criticism. I'm like, dude, I'm nice when I say they couldn't handle 5%. They couldn't handle 2% of the heat that comes my way. Not a single old school tabletop role-playing game YouTuber on here today could handle 2% of the heat that comes my way. I've been handling the fucking hefty heat for up to 8 years now, going on 8 years in total. Right? And I'm like a fucking warrior. None of them credit me for how much heat I put up with and just come back. They'll act like I can't take a joke. I'm like, dude, you can't take a slight bit of criticism. You're a fucking pussy. Right? Sorry, I take lots of heat. I'm still here and doing fine. So obviously I take the shit. You can't. I'm the one who can take the attacks. You can't. And when I say that, a couple of the guys left right away. Oh, no, I heard some feelings. All right, Black Rose. That's it. It's about 3:30. I'm 3 hours and 30 minutes. Look, dude, I know you get the member stuff. Sorry that you came in as I'm getting ready to take off, but it's just how it is. I hope you do catch up on this if you want to. It's actually interesting. Some of the details earlier, if you haven't watched it all, but if you have, cool. If not, have a break. I hope your game was fun. I'm going to have a break tomorrow, right? Now, I'll be back Tuesday for some off-script fun. Let's both get some rest, right? Well, I'll see you there. I'll let you say goodnight first. Goodbye. I'm taking off. I put a lot of work in on here. So much work. Okay, dude.